Time fractures before it screams. Not loudly, not violently, but like a breath held for too long by the universe itself. And finally exhaled. In the warp, all things that live or pretend to cast shadows. Even worlds, even moments, even fears. But this shadow is different. It is small, so small that no mortal psyker would ever notice it. So small that even the custodian guard would walk past its echo without a second thought. Yet to the emperor of mankind, enthroned upon a mountain of golden agony, sustained by 10,000 souls a day, drowning eternally in the tides of raw madness, it is as loud as thunder, a wrongness, a contradiction, a stain on the fabric of the immaterium, not birthed of chaos, not shaped by the warp's predatory whims, but something else, something parallel, something hungry. The Emperor's eyes remain closed on Terra. They have not opened in 10,000 years. But within the warp, within that endless ocean of screaming possibility, he sees everything. And now he sees Hawkins, Indiana, a name too trivial for any cosmic ledger, a place too small to matter, a point of dust upon a point of dust, yet it has been noticed, and so he listens. Across the sea of souls comes a vibration, not a message, not a prayer, but a pulse. It travels not through time, but around it, folding between seconds like a serpent slipping between reeds. This pulse is fear, not human fear, but the psychic scent of a predator marking territory. A shape follows, a mind, a will, thin, angular, cold, reaching outward from the crack between worlds, reaching with intent, reaching like a hand emerging from water. A presence calls itself many names, but in that small American town they will come to know it as Vecna, and Vecna has touched the warp, not fully, not consciously, but enough to be heard, enough to provoke response, enough to trespass upon powers older than the Upside Down could comprehend. The Emperor speaks into the immaterium, his voice echoing like a cathedral of mirrors. A mind dares imitate my domain. The words do not travel, they become. They reshape the currents around him. Then let this trespass be answered. The night air in Hawkins trembles, not visibly, not violently, but like a cord plucked by invisible fingers. Lightning flashes without thunder. The street lamps flicker. Dogs bark and then suddenly stop. Somewhere in the woods, a murder of crows takes off at once, as if fleeing from something only they can see. On the outskirts of town, a portal opens. A vertical wound in reality dripping with the cold blue rot of the Upside Down. The world's edges curl inward. Air becomes wrong. Sound thickens. Smell turns metallic. Time slows as though holding its breath. And through this wound steps a creature tall, skeletal, pale, wearing its humanity like a memory it long ago abandoned. Vecna, he emerges not with fury but with purpose. A stillness that terrifies more than any rage. Strings of decayed psychic energy coil around him, feeding on sadness, guilt, forgotten sins. His presence warps the world, saturating it with heavy silence. He senses something in the darkness, something that does not belong to any world he has conquered. A consciousness so vast the forest seems to bend toward it. He cannot define it, he cannot see it, but he feels it, like an eye opening somewhere impossibly far away and yet impossibly close. A whisper escapes him, not in words but in the psychic language of predators. Who watches me? Far across the galaxy, Terra burns with eternal torchlight. The Emperor's physical body sits motionless, entombed in the golden throne. Its tubes and wires feeding a dying god and draining the Imperium to keep him alive. Custodians stand in silent vigilance. Tech priests chant liturgies. The Astronomicon roars, billions worship, billions fear, billions kill in his name. But none of them know that his vast mind is elsewhere, stretching across space, across time, across psychic strata, toward a small place that no imperial record values. Hawkins. This anomaly is not of chaos. His voice carves itself into the warp like scripture, yet it gnaws upon the threshold of my sight. Such insolence demands inquiry. His essence coalesces, a fraction of his will, something smaller than his smallest thought, splinters off like solar flare. This splinter of the Emperor is more powerful than any Primarch, any Psyker, any demon prince. Yet to him, it is barely a gesture, barely an exhale, and that exhale travels toward Hawkins. Vecna pauses. Something brushes against him, not physically but psychically. A presence, a pressure, a weight that the Upside Down itself recoils from. Vines shrivel, particles freeze midair. The air becomes too still, too silent, too aware. Vecna turns his head slightly as though trying to catch the scent of an invisible predator. He recognizes nothing. He fears nothing. Yet for the first time since ascending within the hive mind of the Upside Down, he hesitates. A voice overlays itself upon reality, not audible but inevitable. You reach into shadows that are not yours. Vecna's body spasms, his senses fracture, the air around him bends with impossible geometry. This voice is presence. This voice is authority. This voice is ancient. Vecna rasps, his psychic voice strained and defiant. Who speaks from beyond my sight? The reply descends like a star collapsing, one who guards the threshold between mankind and the abyss. For a moment, the trees seem to bow. The ground seems to hum, the sky seems to widen, then a point of golden light ignites in the air before Vecna, small, quiet, a sun the size of a candle flame, and it grows, it becomes a figure, a silhouette of burning gold, robes woven from light and memory, a halo of psychic fire. The Emperor of mankind manifests, not fully, not physically, but present. A shard of him stands in the forest outside Hawkins, a living contradiction. A god in a place too small for gods. The Emperor's eyes open and the world bends around that simple act. You have stirred a power you cannot comprehend. Vecna's jaw tenses. His mind lashes outward to dissect this presence. But it finds no edges, no limits, no weakness, only inevitability. I have faced gods before, Vecna hisses. The Emperor's reply is soft. No, you have faced echoes, shadows, reflections. You have never faced me. The forest falls silent. The Upside Down shudders, and the smallest town in America becomes the staging ground for a collision of cosmologies that were never meant to meet. There are sounds that do not travel through air. They move through meaning. The Emperor feels this one long before it could ever touch the surface of reality. A signal so small that no mortal instrument, no astropathic choir, no demonic scribe of the warp itself would have recognized it as anything more than background static. But to him, there is no such thing as background. Every breath of the warp is part of his burden. Every whisper, every echo, every hidden corner is a door he must forever guard. So when something new enters his perception, small, fragile, but undeniably alien, he notices it immediately. It is neither warp-born nor belonging to any known psychic lineage. It moves like a thought that learned to crawl, then learned to hunt, and it is hungry. The Emperor's mind gathers around the echo, studying it the way a sun studies a dust particle. This is not chaos, he murmurs into the infinite sea of spirits around him. His voice does not travel. It becomes law, rippling through the immaterium like an edict carved in light. Then what dares move within my sight? The warp recoils like a living thing, not from fear, but from confusion. Nothing in its long, screaming history has ever felt like this before. Across billions of psychic threads, the Emperor isolates the disturbance. He stretches a portion of his consciousness, a fraction so small that it would make a Primarch seem like an ant, toward the anomaly pulsing from Earth. He knows Earth better than any world. Its scars run deeper than its soil. Its trauma is older than its continents. But this signal is not of Earth, not fully. It carries the taint of a place parallel to reality, a realm which mimics the warp in structure, but lacks its predatory depth. A lesser reflection, a shadow of a shadow, an imitation of cosmic hunger. Yet the imitation has teeth. The Emperor probes deeper, not forcefully, but with the restraint of one who knows the fabric of the universe. Can tear from a touch too harsh. He finds a mind, cold, calculating, angular, like architecture that learned to think. The mind flinches, it senses him, and for a breathless instant it tries to hide. Not from fear, but from instinct. Predators recognize predators. The Emperor allows his presence to swell slightly, the way mountains swell when sunlight breaks across their peaks. "Reveal yourself," he commands. In the fog of a parallel dimension, in a place Hawkins will one day call the Upside Down, something stirs. A shape wrapped in necrotic psychic strands opens its many-layered awareness and stares back at him. Not with eyes, but with will. The creature tries to speak. Its thoughts are jagged, malformed, yet unmistakably curious. A single intent reaches the Emperor like a whisper. "Who?" The Emperor's reply is not volume. It is inevitability. You reach where you should not. The creature, Vecna, recoils. It has known fear. It has known power. It has known minds that scream and minds that collapse. But it has never known a mind that simply is. A mind that exists without equals. A mind that kneels to no law of nature. Vecna's instincts, twisted and patient, try to absorb this presence, to categorize it, to break it into exploitable pieces, but there are no pieces, only unity. Unity made of agony, brilliance, will, and eternity. The Upside Down flickers. Its sky turns inside out. The Emperor presses no further. He withdraws the full weight of his attention, not as mercy, but as precision. Even he must be careful when touching the fragile. Even he does not break toys before understanding who made them. On the physical plane, deep beneath the crust of Terra, the golden throne murmurs. Mechanical lungs exhale waste heat. Titanic pistons push a dead god's heart forward one fraction of a second more. The Astronomicon burns brighter, sending its psychic lighthouse across the void. Tech priests chant binary prayers, static hymns, metallic supplications, designed to soothe a machine that was never meant to exist. Custodians stand like statues, yet something ancient in their blood causes them to straighten subtly. A reflex, a pre-battle stillness. The sacred sensors around the throne flicker, not physically but psychically. Something trembled in the Emperor's perception, something he had not felt in centuries. A mind not of his universe touched the edge of the warp, a mind bold enough to look outward. The Emperor's voice, rarely heard by mortal senses, touches the edge of one custodian's awareness. A single word: prepare. The custodian's heart drops. He does not ask prepare for what. No custodian ever does. The universe is full of threats. Some are made of flesh, some of metal, some of broken dreams, but anything worthy of his attention must be nothing less than catastrophic. The night in Hawkins remains deceptively quiet. A boy rides his bicycle down a rural road. A dog barks at a moth circling a porch light. A few teenagers argue inside a rusted-out Camaro. A police cruiser rolls lazily past a row of dark houses. To the town, this is nothing more than another night drenched in humidity and wholesome boredom. But beneath the veneer, reality flexes. Grass bends where no wind blows. Street lamps flicker in patterns that mimic breath. Windows vibrate at a frequency too low for human eardrums to register. Birds take flight 1 second too early. Dogs whimper at corners of empty rooms. Frogs cease croaking entirely. And in the vast emptiness between one heartbeat and the next, the sky wrinkles. A ripple of psychic displacement moves across Hawkins, quiet as silk being torn. No one hears it. No one sees it. But every shadow grows just a little too long, just a little too aware. A wrongness spreads, soft as pollen, impossible to name. This is the echo the Emperor detected, small, insignificant, invisible, yet unmistakable, like the first droplet of water before a flood. In the warp, the Emperor begins to unwind the echo fully, turning it in his grasp like a shard of forbidden glass. He traces its origin not through time, but through intent. This presence is not natural, not chaotic, not accidental. It is constructed. A mind warped by emotion, by trauma, by obsession so potent that the boundary between dimensions thinned in response to its hunger. This is not a god. This is not a demon. This is a mortal mind that learned to tear at reality the way a starving animal tears at flesh. The Emperor speaks into the void again. A human soul should not possess this capacity. The warp whispers its agreement, not with loyalty, but with relief. Even the warp fears imitation. The Emperor tightens his focus. He sees flashes, symbolic, distorted glimpses filtered through the fracture. A broken boy, a sterile white facility, a girl with shaved hair screaming into a mirror of glass, a hand reaching toward another world, a mind collapsing in on itself like a dying star, and the shadow of a man becoming something no longer human. Vecna. A name is irrelevant. What matters is the intention. A predator has found a corridor into a domain it cannot understand. If this creature continues unchecked, the Emperor states to no one, Earth will become the first stone to fall. Silence answers. Even silence has learned obedience. The Emperor withdraws from the warp's infinite screams and focuses his will into a single point. He has seen enough. This anomaly must be addressed, not with armies, not with fleets, not with extermination protocols. This threat is psychic, dimensional, subtle, strategic. It requires his personal attention, even if only a fraction of him can be spared. A sliver of the Emperor's consciousness coalesces into a spear of golden psychic fire. He does not call it an avatar. He does not call it a projection. Such words imply limitation. It is simply his will, focused and armed. The spear streaks across the warp toward the fracture surrounding Hawkins, tearing through layers of unreality with mathematical precision. The Emperor whispers almost gently, "If something hungry has come to claim humanity, the spear of his will accelerates. Then it will learn the cost of trespass." The Upside Down shudders. Reality bends, and Hawkins, Indiana unwittingly becomes the stage for a meeting no universe was meant to contain. The spear of golden will does not travel through space. It travels through importance. Where other things obey distance, the Emperor obeys relevance. Hawkins is not far from Terra because Hawkins does not matter. What matters is the fracture, the hairline crack in the skin of reality, the wrong note in the endless choir of the warp. That is where the spear arrives. Above the woods outside Hawkins, the night blinks. For 1 microsecond, every photon in a 5-kilometer radius forgets which direction it was going. The stars smear, the moon hiccups, the air becomes a diagram. Then, A narrow line of gold appears high in the sky, perfectly straight, perfectly still, like a brushstroke, drawn between two unspoken thoughts. It begins to descend. The line leaves no trail, no smoke, no fire. But wherever it passes, the world shivers. Street lamps flare and then dim. TV screens flicker with static even when they are turned off. In dozens of houses, sleeping people twitch and mutter, trapped in dreams of endless stairs and doors that lead to nowhere. The golden line pierces the tree canopy without touching it, as if the forest is a memory and the spear is the only real object in frame. It does not crash, it arrives. Suddenly and absolutely, in a clearing where the soil remembers the first time the Upside Down opened. The line resolves into a figure. The Emperor's shard stands in the middle of the clearing, a being shaped from light and gravity and judgment. He is not fully physical, yet not fully immaterial. His form is a compromise between what the universe can bear and what his nature demands. To mortal eyes, he would appear as a tall, robed figure woven from gold and shadow, features blurred as though reality refuses to commit them to detail. To the warp, he is a wound of clarity. To the Upside Down, he is an intrusion of authority. The forest responds first, leaves tremble without wind, damp earth exhales steam, insects fall silent mid-chirp, their small neural circuits stunned by a presence their tiny bodies were never meant to parse. The clearing's center darkens around him, not with shadow, but with contrast. He is the reference point against which everything else is suddenly measured and found wanting. The Emperor glances down at his hand, a gesture more symbolic than functional. He flexes his will. The air stiffens. "Suitable," he murmurs. The word does not echo. It imprints. No one in Hawkins hears it. But every device that can receive a signal, every radio, every television, every dormant telephone line, registers a spike of static, a blip of pure noise that technicians would later dismiss as interference. They would be wrong. It is not interference, it is his presence. Across the thin membrane between worlds, the Upside Down watches. It has never had to watch before. It is accustomed to being the unseen hunter, the thing lurking behind the wallpaper. But now something stands in the clearing that does not belong to either world. The air in the Upside Down's reflection of the forest turns viscous. Vines twitch. Spores hang unmoving for a heartbeat before slowly drifting again, their lazy descent suddenly cautious. Vecna senses the arrival like a nerve touched by a surgeon's cold instrument. He stands in his own version of the clearing where the trees are skeletal and the soil is a carpet of pulsing, fleshy growths. Every root, every mote of dust, every string of psychic residue in the Upside Down feeds information into him. He feels the new presence not as footsteps, not as sound, but as a rearrangement of priority. Something has entered the equation that the system was never built to solve. He narrows a skull-like gaze, peering through the thin membrane of dimensions. On the other side, filtered as though through tinted glass, he sees the silhouette of the Emperor's shard, a golden figure standing in the same clearing but under a different sky. Two worlds share coordinates without quite occupying the same space. Vecna reaches out with his mind. His thoughts push against the barrier like fingers against ice. The membrane resists, then thins, then lets a fraction of him through. The Emperor feels the touch instantly. It is not subtle. It is not refined. It is raw intent sharpened into a spike. He does not block it. He allows Vecna's probing presence to brush against his mind, the way a teacher might allow a child to push against his hand, to understand the futility of the effort. The contact is not symmetrical. For Vecna, it is like staring into an event horizon that chose to become a person. He feels layers of will stacked upon will, centuries of warfare, sacrifices tallied in numbers too large for language. He feels billions of souls burning like candles around a throne of agony, their light forged into a single continuous beam that tears through the dark. He sees glimpses, not clear images, but archetypes burned into the psychic medium. Armored giants marching beneath banners, cities built inside hollowed mountains, planets dying in fire while fleets flee through warp storms. A throne that feeds on devotion and flesh in equal measure. The sheer scale of this consciousness threatens to erode Vecna's sense of self like a shoreline under tidal assault. He pulls back, not entirely by choice. The Emperor lets him go. "You are not of this place," Vecna rasps, thought echoing across the dimensional divide. The Emperor tilts his golden head slightly. "Neither are you." The response is calm, measured, perfectly balanced between accusation and observation. Vecna's pride flares. It is one of the few truly human things left in him. "This realm bends to my will. Its fears feed me. Its memories are mine to repurpose." The Emperor considers this. "You have discovered a fracture," he says. "You mistake it for a throne." The upside down around Vecna seethes, tendrils lash. Distant shapes convulse, unwilling mirrors of his anger. "And what are you then?" Vecna demands. "Another god begging for worship?" The clearing on the Emperor's side of reality seems to dim, as though the night itself is suddenly aware of the impropriety of that question. He answers without raising his voice. "I am responsibility." The word weighs more than any title. It drags behind it wars, decisions, worlds consigned to death so that others may live. Vecna has never carried anything like it. He has carried hatred, ambition, curiosity sharpened into cruelty, but never responsibility. To him, the concept feels like a chain, so he rejects it. "You preside over a prison of your own making," Vecna sneers. "I preside over freedom. Here, guilt becomes power, trauma becomes weapon. I offer evolution." The Emperor almost smiles. It would not be visible, but the impression of it ripples through both worlds. "You offer indulgence," he replies. "You dress it in philosophy to hide that it serves only your hunger." For the first time since he became what Hawkins will come to fear, Vecna feels the faintest echo of being understood by something he cannot manipulate. He hates it. The Emperor's shard does not attack, not yet. He studies. He feels how the Upside Down is connected to human minds, how Vecna crawls along the neurological wiring of guilt, turning memory into leash. He sees the dimensional signature of this place, not warp, not real space, but something grown out of human perception itself. A psychic compost heap achieving critical mass. "This realm is young," he notes. "It exists because your kind lacked shepherds." Vecna bristles. "Your shepherds failed. Your worlds burn. Your throne feeds on your own. Do not speak to me of guardianship." The Emperor's voice stays level. "And yet, in 10,000 years of suffering, none of my species has birthed this." He gestures not physically but psychically toward the Upside Down as a whole. "You have made a cage out of human pain. You call yourself its master. In truth, you are its servant." The statement lands with the force of revelation, not because Vecna believes it, but because some buried remnant of Henry Creel recognizes the accusation. For a moment, a boy stares at a drawing of twisted trees. A boy hears a clock ticking in an empty house. A boy realizes that killing does not make the world less ugly. Then the memory is devoured, subsumed by the monster he chose to become. "I serve nothing," Vecna spits. "You serve your own emptiness," the Emperor replies. "You merely call it purpose." The dialogue, though brief, is not wasted. The Emperor now understands enough to act with precision. This is not a chaos god that must be warred against for millennia. This is not a Xenos psychic collective anchored to some distant stellar nursery. This is a localized infection, dangerous, growing, but killable. He extends one hand, palm outward toward the place where the barrier thins. Golden light gathers. Vecna reacts instantly, raising his own clawed hand in the mirror clearing of the Upside Down. Dark energy coils around his fingers. Strings of psychic filament woven from stolen memories. Regret and unanswered screams. For one suspended instant, the clearing becomes a double exposure. Two realities stacked atop each other. In one, a golden figure lifting a hand of light. In the other, a necrotic sorcerer raising a hand of rot. When their wills meet, the world doesn't explode, it tightens. Sound drops out, color reduces to contrasts of dark and bright. Time compresses into something like a held breath. Trees lean inward, soil compacts. The stars themselves seem to take a step closer. At the point of contact between their powers, a small sphere of neither light nor dark forms, a perfect circle where reality cannot decide which law to obey. The Emperor measures the resistance, strong, adaptive, but crude. Vecna screams, not with throat, but with concept. The Upside Down roars around him, every vine and tendril convulsing as he draws on the full depth of his realm's hatred. The Emperor does not scream. He simply applies more will, cracks spiderweb through the invisible sphere of conflict. They are not physical cracks, they are mathematical failures. Places where both systems of reality refuse to resolve into a single answer. After a moment, he withdraws his hand. The energy dissipates, the forest exhales. The Upside Down's convulsions ease, like an animal shuddering after a near-fatal blow. Vecna staggers, one knee dipping toward the fleshy ground of his realm. He catches himself, breathing hard despite having no real lungs. He realizes something then, something almost worse than defeat. This entity is not exerting itself, not truly. The Emperor's shard speaks one more time, words calibrated not to intimidate but to clarify. This world is under my observation now. The statement is simple, absolute. Feed upon it further and you will compete with me for it. Vecna straightens slowly. Predator recognizes predator, but he has never bowed to anyone. Not his family, not the scientists who tried to contain him. Not the hive mind he hijacked. He will not start now. Then watch closely, he replies, voice like broken glass sliding together. You may yet learn something about hunger. The Upside Down closes around him, shrouding his form in pulsing shadows. The Emperor says nothing further. He does not need to. His mere continued presence in the clearing is a declaration. He has stepped onto the board. The game, whether Vecna understands it or not, has changed. Above Hawkins, the stars resume their ordinary twinkling. Inside Hawkins, people return to their uneventful dreams, but somewhere between a small town's fragile peace and the infinite roar of the warp, a god and a monster have agreed, without quite saying it, to test whose definition of reality will prevail. Hawkins. Indiana is not built for mysteries. It is built for porches and mailboxes, for rusted pickups and grocery store chatter, for the kind of routine that makes days indistinguishable. It's why the town never truly notices the first sign. The quiet. Not an ordinary quiet, not the polite hush after midnight or the stillness before a storm, but a quiet that feels intentional, like someone pressed pause on the background noise of the world. Crickets stop mid-chirp. Wind pauses mid-breath. A dog's bark dies halfway out of its throat as if it forgot why it barked at all. The quiet lasts only 3 seconds, but for Hawkins, that's enough to shift something under the surface of local consciousness. A few people, sensitive ones, the kind who always know when a room has been rearranged, wake from their sleep with a sudden, unexplainable alertness. Will Byers, Steve Harrington, Erica Sinclair, and 11, 4 entirely different lives, 4 entirely different dreams, 4 minds brushing against something they are not equipped to understand. None of them will remember these exact 3 seconds, but they will remember how they felt, like a watcher they could not see was briefly looking back. In the cluttered stillness of a cabin deep in the woods, 11 sits upright in bed, her breath sharp and uneven. Sweat beads across her forehead even though the room is cold. She dreamed of the void again. The black ocean, the endless horizon of nothing, her bare feet in shallow psychic water that ripples without source. She has always approached the void with a peculiar blend of dread and familiarity. Tonight it felt crowded. She sensed another presence, not Vecna. His psychic signature is jagged, diseased, a twisting maze of trauma and predation. This presence is different. Larger, quieter, older. It did not reach for her. It did not hunt her. It observed her. She shudders. She has felt the upside down. She has faced its horrors, its hive mind, its monstrous cruelty. But this presence was none of those things. It was precise, measured, watching the void the way a teacher watches a chalkboard. She doesn't have the language for it. She cannot shape the sensation into words, but she knows one thing instinctively. Something new has entered the field. In the clearing outside Hawkins, the Emperor's shard remains perfectly still. Animals skirt the edges of his presence in wide, instinctive arcs. Even the wind behaves more respectfully, choosing alternate routes around the anomaly of his form. He senses the town. Not its geography, that is trivial. He senses its weight on human psyche. Small towns are delicate ecosystems. Fear here travels faster than logic. Hope lingers longer than proof. Trauma can carve deeper because there are fewer places to hide it. Hawkins is a perfect incubator for dimensional bleed. He studies the people not as individuals, but as a collective emotional diagram. So many scars, so many psychological fractures, a fertile topsoil for something like Vecna to take root. This world was not designed for such stress, he murmurs. The words feel too large for the clearing, as if reality must stretch to accommodate their meaning. He sees the echo ripple through Hawkins. Sensitive minds respond first. Children, of course. Children are not yet insulated by the coping mechanisms that adulthood constructs. They feel psychic tremors the way tuning forks feel vibration. Among them, one mind draws his attention instantly. A girl, young, untrained. But her psyche is shaped around a kind of pressure that humans were not built to hold. Her suffering is not a typical human suffering. It is engineered, sharpened, forced into the mold of a weapon. 11, his golden form tilts slightly, not out of curiosity, but out of recognition. A fragment of design, he notes. Power built without wisdom. He examines her psychic footprint. It is bruised, fractured in places, but resilient, and more importantly, it has already resisted Vecna once. That matters. Across town, Will Byers stares at the ceiling of his room, eyes wide open, heart pounding harder than any nightmare deserves. He feels it again, the pressure, not as strong as the mind flayer, not invasive like the possession, but familiar, a vibration, almost like a memory of terror rather than terror itself. It pulses behind his sternum like a second heartbeat. He sits up, hands shaking. "Not again," he whispers. But this time feels different. This presence is not hunting him, it is not reaching for him, it is calling to something else. Something deeper in the upside down, something older, more geometric, more structured. As if the very architecture of that dark world shifted slightly. He doesn't know how he knows this, but he knows it. Somewhere in the house, Joyce stirs in her sleep, frowning at nothing. The Emperor turns his gaze upward. A faint line, the crack Vecna used, still scars the sky in this clearing. Invisible to the human eye, perfectly visible to him. It is small, almost delicate, but its implications are massive. Dimensional fractures do not appear spontaneously. They require a catalyst, a focus, a wound. Vecna is all three. The Emperor studies the crack the way a physicist studies a microfracture in the hull of a starship. This is not merely a breach, he decides. It is a negotiation. The fracture is responding to the emotions of Hawkins. Fear expands it. Hope contracts it. Trauma stabilizes it. Memory feeds it. It is parasitic but also symbiotic, absorbing meaning and giving form. The upside down is not a place, it is a process. A psychic phenomena given architectural expression. This changes everything. Vecna did not discover a realm. He discovered a mechanism, one he can manipulate because he is broken enough to operate on its wavelength. The Emperor places a golden hand, just a fraction of a centimeter from the invisible crack. He does not touch it. He lets it touch him. It recoils instantly the way oil recoils from flame. Interesting. The crack is not a door. It is a warning sign, a sign that the barrier between dimensions is becoming porous. He withdraws his hand. This must be contained. But before he can address the fracture, he needs to understand the battlefield fully, the town itself. The Emperor closes his eyes, or rather, he simulates the gesture. The clearing dissolves. Hawkins superimposes itself over his consciousness as a glowing web of psychic architecture. Every human mind becomes a node in a complex emotional network. He sees faint guilt from Nancy Wheeler, protective anxiety from Hopper, conflicted hope in Jonathan, a boy named Mike, dreaming of failure, Dustin's rapid electric curiosity, Max's grief, deep, raw, dangerous. Eleven's loneliness shines like a beacon. Vecna circles that emotion like a shark scenting blood, but Will is the most concerning of all. His mind still bears the imprint of the Mind Flayer, a resonant frequency, a memory of being inhabited, a leftover tether that Vecna may someday use. The Emperor evaluates, calculates, determines. This town is the weak point, not because it is fragile, but because it is connected. A neural cluster perfectly shaped for psychic exploitation. Hawkins is not merely a battleground. Hawkins is a conduit. The Emperor reforms his awareness in the clearing. Golden light ripples across his robes. He makes no movement, yet the world reacts as though something massive shifted weight. He speaks softly. This realm has a champion. The word champion is not praise. It is classification, a designation. He sensed her. The girl with the fractured heart and weaponized mind. 11. She is a variable Vecna must account for. She is a variable he must account for. A child like her should not carry such power, but children are often chosen by calamity long before they are chosen by destiny. He does not intend to interfere with her path, but he must understand it. Vecna is a threat. The fracture is a threat, but her power, unrefined, uncontained, built without moral guidance, could become a threat as well. All pieces must be observed, he says, before judgment can be passed. A soft sound emerges behind him, not a threat, a signal. Reality itself clears its throat. The upside down shifts. Vecna moves. 11 stirs. Will trembles. Hawkins breathes wrong again. The Emperor's shard turns his golden head. Something is coming. Not Vecna. Not yet. Something sent by the fracture to test the boundaries of his presence. He awaits it with the patience of a god. The fracture does not open with spectacle. No storm, no pillar of flame. Reality simply loosens. In the clearing, the air thickens as if the night has remembered it doesn't want to be transparent. Particles of dust slow down, caught in an invisible syrup. A faint smell of rot leaks in, too subtle for human noses but obvious to anything that understands entropy. The Emperor's shard doesn't move. He already knows what is happening. "A probe," he murmurs. On the other side of the membrane, the upside down churns. The clearing there is the same and not the same. Trees skeletal, their bark replaced with sinew and fungus, ground carpeted with pulsing organic mats, air filled with floating spores like decayed snow. At the center of that mirrored space, something peels away from the trunks. Its shape is not fully decided until it steps forward. A lanky, spined creature with limbs too long, movements too unsure to be natural. Not a demogorgon, not yet. A cousin, an incomplete idea of a predator. Assembled from the Upside Down's understanding of what fear looks like. Vecna watches from a distance, nested in his boneyard throne, eyes narrowed. He is not yet willing to confront this golden intruder directly again. Not until he understands its limits. So he sends something expendable. The creature moves toward the fracture, drawn as if by instinct. Its body flickers between solid and translucent. Its head, an unopened cavity of ridged flesh, twitches in quick staccato jerks. It does not understand why it is doing this. It does not need to. It was born to obey. The membrane between worlds depresses like thin skin under a fingertip, then breaks. The creature spills through. For a moment, it exists in both realities at once. Half rooted in the Upside Down, half protruding into the Hawkins forest. Then it resolves. It appears in the clearing with a violent, wet sound that no human ear will hear. To any camera, it would be a glitch in the footage, a smear of corrupted frames. To the Emperor, it is simply another puzzle. The thing staggers, adjusting to gravity it technically already knows, but has never felt this cleanly. Its head petals open with a sticky crack, revealing a cavern of glistening, tooth-like ridges. A mouth designed for fear as much as for consumption. The Emperor does not flinch. He has seen the birth of Primarchs, the rise of demon princes, the dissolution of suns. This thing is interesting. In the same way a new disease strain is interesting. The creature's senses register him. Predator instinct meets impossible input. The Upside Down taught this thing what prey smells like, what fear tastes like, what dominance feels like. Nothing in its repertoire prepared it for this. It freezes, head tilting, legs bending into a half-crouch. It wants to flee, it does not know how. The arrival has side effects. In Hopper's cabin, every loose object rattles for half a second and then goes still. A tremor too soft to register as an earthquake, too localized to reach any seismograph. In the Wheeler house, a picture frame tilts on the wall, its nail having shifted just a fraction of a millimeter. In the buyer's home, a light bulb pops with a soft flash, leaving the hallway in shadow. None of these incidents will be connected to anything cosmic. They will be chalked up to old wiring, old houses, chance. But 11 hears something. She sits at the small table, midnight cereal bowl untouched, spoon hanging loosely from her fingers. There it is, not a sound, a pressure, like someone plucking a string stretched between worlds. Her nose does not bleed, not yet. This is too faint for that. But her awareness tightens. She stares at the wall, at nothing in particular and leans inward with her mind. She feels two forces. One is familiar. The cold, invasive presence of the Upside Down, the architecture of Vecna's hunger. The other is not. The other is... She hesitates. The word that wants to surface isn't one she knows how to apply to a person. Order. That's what it feels like. Like someone who doesn't just exist inside a system of rules, but is the system. She abruptly shoves her bowl away, chair scraping. Her breath grows shallow. Whatever is happening out there, it is not just Vecna. Something else has entered the field. Back in the clearing, the creature finally moves. It lunges, not because it has decided to attack, but because attack is the only action it knows. Its claws cut the air. Its open petals snap shut around the space the Emperor occupies. They meet nothing. Not because he isn't there, but because he does not allow his form to be beneath its notice. The Emperor sidesteps reality, the way a mathematician discards an irrelevant variable. To the creature's limited perception, the golden figure simply shifts, perfectly still yet now somehow elsewhere. The Emperor lifts a hand, not the full hand, just one finger. Golden phosphorescence gathers at the fingertip, no brighter than a candle flame. "You were not made to know better," he says. He is not speaking to it, not really. He is speaking to the process that birthed it, to the Upside Down itself. But what is made can be unmade. He points. No beam lances out, no explosion. Instead, the laws governing the creature's existence are quietly renegotiated. Its body is a construct of borrowed rules, biological templates stolen from real animals, overwritten with the logic of nightmare. The Emperor plucks at one rule, continuity. For the creature, gravity suddenly points sideways, then up, then inward. Its own limbs misalign. Its perception of self fractures into missynchronized frames. To outside observers, if there were any, it would simply look like the monster takes one step and falls apart in midair, dissolving into ash, then into nothing. The Emperor does not even watch it vanish. He has already learned what he needed to learn from it. The Upside Down can instantiate things physically with limited coherence. That is power. But it is not refined power. It is brute force projection, effective against humans, hopelessly primitive against him. In the Upside Down, Vecna stiffens. The tether to his creature snaps so suddenly he is momentarily disoriented. He feels not just the death, that is common enough, but the method of erasure. The link does not end in pain. It doesn't end in anything at all. It is as though the creature never existed. Vecna bares his teeth. He is accustomed to losing pieces. Agents, vectors, they rot, die, fade, but nothing has ever refused to acknowledge their existence afterwards. This golden intruder isn't just stronger. It writes reality at a different priority level. The Upside Down heaved to project a single scout. The intruder dismissed it as if swiping away dust on a page. Vecna grips the organic railing of his vantage point so hard, the flesh-like structure cracks. The hive mind around him throbs in agitation. He quiets it with a pulse of will. He will not rush. He cannot yet afford to treat this entity like an ordinary enemy. This is a variable so large it threatens to distort the whole equation. The clearing returns to its previous stillness, though previous is a strong word. The memory of the creature's presence lingers in the air like the afterimage of a flash behind closed eyes. The Emperor catalogs the event with the efficiency of a warlord mapping a new weapon. The realm can project localized threats, he notes, tied to a central will but structurally independent. He sees the tether Vecna used, an umbilicus of psychic power, now severed. Useful. Severed tethers can sometimes be followed back to their source. He traces the fading trail with a fragment of attention. confirming what he already suspected. The Upside Down is not just a mirror. It is a parasite latched onto this region of human consciousness. It has roots here, deep ones, and this probe was not random. He tests my reaction, the Emperor says softly. He finds the notion almost amusing, to be tested by a creature who only recently learned how to articulate its own hunger. But he understands the strategy. He would have done the same, in a different life. He lets the idea sit for a moment. Testing goes both ways. A second wave moves through Hawkins. This one is subtler but more emotionally resonant. Those who woke earlier now feel a strange synchronization, as if they all share a secret they cannot name. Steve Harrington lies awake, staring at his ceiling, feeling that familiar itch at the back of his mind that says, "It's not over. It's never over." Max shifts in restless half-sleep, a ghost of Billy's death replaying behind her closed eyes, but now accompanied by a faint golden silhouette she does not recognize. Dustin dreams of star maps with new symbols scribbled in the margins. Erica wakes up annoyed without knowing why, muttering, "Something's off." Will simply sits on the edge of his bed, hands clenched, sensing that a conversation has begun without him. A conversation about his town, his friends, his world. He feels caught in the crossfire of things too big to see. 11, still seated at the table, feels the echo of the creature's annihilation like the pluck of a distant nerve. She doesn't know what died. She just knows something tried to enter and was stopped. Not by Vecna, not by her, by someone else. That is new. That is terrifying. That is hope. She isn't sure she likes that word anymore. It has betrayed her before. In the clearing, the Emperor's shard finally moves with intention. He takes one step forward. The ground does not shake. It stiffens. He extends his will in a radius around the clearing, threading subtle fields into the underlying psychic fabric of Hawkins. He is not here to raise a fortress or to crucify the sky. He is here to witness and, if necessary, to intervene. So he sets parameters. An invisible dome forms over the forest, not blocking the Upside Down, but marking the overlap zone. Within this perimeter, he will always be present, through Avatar, through attention, through the warp. Any attempt to breach from Vecna's side will be noticed, measured, and, if needed, crushed. He speaks once, a single sentence, loosed into both realms simultaneously. Let all forces touching this place know this ground is now contested. The words ripple outward. The fracture shivers. The Upside Down recoils. Hawkins, unaware, turns over in its sleep. For the first time since the first Demogorgon slipped through, this small town is no longer merely prey. It has become disputed territory in a war between cosmologies, and neither side has yet realized how much the children of Hawkins will matter. Dawn should bring normalcy to Hawkins. It should wash away whatever strange tension settled in the night and leave only the tired comfort of a small American town. But that's not what happens. Morning breaks crooked. The sunlight feels a fraction dimmer. Birdsong resumes, but out of sequence, like someone pressed play on the wrong part of the tape. People wake sluggish, unsettled, as if they dreamed something important and forgot it the moment their eyes opened. Hawkins is a town used to trauma, but not to anticipation. Something is coming. Everyone feels it. No one understands it. And among the youngest, the most perceptive, the ones fate keeps punishing with cosmic exposure, that feeling is strongest. She sits on the porch of Hopper's cabin, knees pulled to her chest, watching early fog crawl between the trees. There is a hum beneath the world today, a pressure that vibrates inside her ribs. She has felt the upside down for years. It's whispers, it's cold, it's constant attention. But this new presence is nothing like that. It doesn't scrape against her mind. It doesn't try to trick her or pull her or devour her. It simply is heavy, vast, quiet. She calls out into the void mentally, a habit she learned from surviving. Who are you? The void answers the way a mountain answers a grain of sand, by existing. 11 exhales sharply. She cannot push into that awareness. She cannot penetrate it. She cannot even conceptualize it. She only knows one thing for certain. Whatever it is doesn't want to hurt her. That terrifies her more than if it did, because things that want to hurt her follow patterns she understands. Things that don't, they have purpose, and purpose is scarier than hunger. Will Byers stands in his backyard, arms wrapped around himself, staring at the tree line. He hasn't eaten. He hasn't spoken. He hasn't blinked enough. His mother calls from the kitchen window. But he doesn't answer, because he is listening. Something presses at the edges of his awareness, a ghost of sensation, far less brutal than the mind flayer, less invasive, but unmistakably real. Will's sensitivity to the upside down has never faded. He hears the hive mind murmuring faintly this morning, stirred by something unfamiliar. And beneath it, like a bass note under a symphony, something larger vibrates. Something foreign, something powerful. It feels like standing between two massive machines, trying to detect which one will turn first. Moments like this remind Will that he is marked, that the upside down doesn't forget its toys. He shudders and whispers, "It's changing again." He is right, but the change is not what he fears. It is worse, wider, older. By mid-morning, Hawkins Middle School's AV room is once again the headquarters of a war the adults cannot see. Mike, Dustin, Lucas, Erica, Max, and Will crowd in. Elle joins quietly, leaning against Mike's shoulder, her eyes distant. Dustin is already pacing. Okay, someone say they felt something last night. Erica raises a hand with dramatic slowness. Everything got weird for like 3 seconds, even my Barbie lamp flickered. Lucas nods. My dad's radio snapped on by itself, played a single note, then died. I checked the wiring, nothing wrong. Max shrugs, arms crossed. I dreamed of Billy again, but it wasn't normal. There was something watching. Not Vecna, something bigger. Will flinches but doesn't speak. Mike turns to 11. Elle, did you sense anything? She hesitates. How does she explain an encounter with a presence she cannot describe, without sounding insane even by Hawkins standards? Finally, she whispers, "It felt like order." 6 baffled faces stare at her. Dustin stops pacing. Order? Like military order? Cosmic order? Alphabetized order? Elle shakes her head. No, not like us. Not like the upside down, like something watching the whole world to make sure it doesn't break. Will swallows hard. That's exactly how I felt. The group stiffens. Mike's voice drops. Is Vecna back? 11 closes her eyes. No, Vecna feels like poison. This feels like stone. Will whispers, stone that thinks. That freezes everyone, because Will's instincts are never wrong. In the clearing, the Emperor's shard remains motionless. His awareness extends toward the town in delicate waves. A surveillance so subtle even the warp hardly notices. He studies the cluster of minds gathered in the AV room. Children, yet carrying wounds that would break hardened soldiers. Their trauma does not weaken them. It shapes them. Scar tissue forming bridges the upside down cannot entirely sever. He sees the threads. 11. Power without doctrine, constantly teetering between weapon and child. Will, connection to the parallel realm haunted by a possession that never fully released him. Max, grief coiled like a spring, her heart simultaneously shield and flaw. Dustin, intellect burning so brightly it occasionally blinds itself. Lucas, courage shaped by loyalty. Erica, a mind sharp enough to cut futures in advance. Mike, the emotional anchor of the group, holding tensions they do not recognize. Together they form a defensive architecture against something far greater than themselves. A warband, the Emperor murmurs, the faintest flicker of fascination in his voice. Not warriors, but a warband nonetheless. And like any warband, they require understanding. He extends a thread of perception just enough to listen, without touching, without influencing, without leaving residue. Observation only. He hears 11's uncertain whisper. Something is coming. Yes, he thinks, but the something is already here. Deep in the mirror realm, Vecna watches through the hive mind as the children gather. He cannot hear their exact words, but he senses the emotional vectors. Fear, unity, confusion, and that irritating spark of hope that always disrupts his designs. He feels something else, too. A presence in the clearing again, golden, still, waiting. Vecna tightens his fingers until the bone creature supporting him creaks in protest. He observes them. Vecna snarls. He studies what is mine. The upside down rumbles, agreeing in its subconscious way. It hungers without understanding. It obeys without thinking. Vecna strokes the air with a twisted semblance of gentleness. No. His voice echoes across the fleshy terrain. They are not his. He stands, decisive, cold. Not yet. Back in the AV room, the lights flicker. Not all at once. Just one bulb in one corner for one heartbeat. Everyone stops talking. The bulb flashes again, a coded rhythm like Morse, but not exactly. 11's eyes widen. Will clutches his chest, breathing faster. Max steps back. Dustin whispers, "Guys, that wasn't Vecna." Erica mutters, "I'm not about to get eaten by a power outage." 11 stands slowly, her voice barely audible. "It's coming from the woods." Mike's face pales. "Vecna." 11 shakes her head. "No, something else. Something watching." Dustin groans. "Oh great, so we've gone from demogorgons to existential cosmic observers." Erica points toward the open door. "If someone doesn't explain what that means in English, I swear I'm defecting to Starcourt Mall." But they all know the truth. Understanding can wait, action cannot. The kids grab their bikes like reflex, as if every crisis in their lives can only be approached on two wheels. 11 doesn't need one, but rides anyway, part of the group, part of the ritual. They race through Hawkins, tires crunching over gravel, voices quiet, instincts loud. As they near the woods, Will grips his handlebars tighter. He can feel the pressure growing, a gravity of attention turning its gaze outward. 11 senses it too. The thing in the clearing isn't just observing them now. It's waiting. The Emperor senses their approach. He does not turn. He does not flare with power. He does not prepare a threat. He simply acknowledges their presence is required. Why? Because they are tied to the fracture's history. They are tied to Vecna's rise. They are tied to 11's capabilities. And Hawkins is not merely a battlefield. It is a fulcrum. The Emperor stands perfectly still as 6 bikes skid to a halt somewhere just beyond the trees. 11 dismounts first. Her breath is sharp. Her fear is real, her courage is undeniable. She steps into the clearing. She feels the presence, like staring into the sun through closed eyes. "Who?" Her voice breaks. "Are you?" A question no human has ever asked him and lived to understand the answer. The Emperor does not answer. Not yet, because behind 11 the others step forward too. Max, Dustin, Will, Lucas, Mike, Erica. And the moment they stand together in the clearing with 2 realities breathing against each other, the Emperor sees the shape of what comes next. Not victory, not annihilation, but convergence. A war of cosmos and childhood, a meeting of hunger and responsibility, the beginning of a conflict Vecna cannot comprehend. But the children will, because they must. The clearing is just trees and dirt and morning light. It has no right to feel like the center of anything. No throne, no altar, no stone monolith declaring here the universe turns. But it does, because he is there. To the naked eye, the Emperor's shard is simply a tall figure of impossible gold and shadow, standing in the middle of the open space. No obvious armor, no weapon, no crown, just presence, like a statue that forgot how not to be alive. The children skid to a messy halt at the tree line, bikes half dropped behind them, breath like steam in the cool air. For a heartbeat, none of them move. Their instincts, sharpened by years of dealing with monsters, are screaming 2 things at once. Run. Don't turn your back. 11 feels something else. She feels the void again, that black, endless room inside her head. Now layered with a single point of blinding gold, she steps forward. The world goes muffled as she crosses an invisible line. No sound cuts out completely. The birds still chirp, the leaves still rustle. But all background noise loses emotional relevance. Her senses reprioritize. There is only him. The others feel it too, to lesser, more human degrees. Dustin's rapid-fire thoughts stall. Max's defenses flicker. Lucas's skepticism bends into awe. Erica, for once, does not have a comeback. Mike feels his role, always the one who speaks first, slip out of his hands. This isn't like facing a Demogorgon, or the Mind Flayer, or Vecna. This doesn't feel like danger. It feels like standing at the edge of a verdict. 11's voice comes out small. "You are not Vecna." The golden figure inclines its head, a movement so precise it might have been calculated. "Correct." His voice is wrong, not in a monstrous way, in a scale way. It sounds like it's speaking from 2 directions at once, inside her skull and from the center of the clearing. Calm, measured, ancient, without effort, it fills the world. The Emperor's shard sees them clearly now. 6 fragile bodies, 6 bright, unruly minds. 6 stories of defiance against a realm that should have consumed them. He sees the scars, not on their skin but on their timelines. Near deaths, lost siblings, broken homes, choices no child should have had to make. He also sees something else, a pattern. Where humanity typically fractures under such weight, they have intertwined, each trauma connecting them more tightly instead of driving them apart. This is unusual. Useful, he decides in the span of a thought, that they are worth speaking to. Not as worshippers, not as soldiers, as witnesses. Silence stretches too long. To Dustin Henderson, silence is an insult or a challenge. He blurts out, "Okay, hi, question. Are you an alien, a government experiment, an angel, or like the CEO of whatever's been messing with our town since, like, forever?" Lucas hisses, "Dude." Erica elbows him. "No, Let him cook. The figure doesn't turn its head like a human would. Instead, the space around Dustin seems to briefly tighten, like the conversation has simply chosen him as its focal point. I am none of these things, the being says, and all of them are inadequate metaphors. Dustin blinks. That's not an answer. The golden figure replies, it is an accurate one. Max mutters under her breath, great, the Upside Down finally sent us a pretentious philosopher. Mike swallows and forces himself to speak. Okay, let's try this the normal way. I'm Mike. That's Lucas, Dustin, Will, Erica, Max. He glances at Elle. And 11. The figure turns, or the world rotates around him, to face 11 fully. There is no increase in light, no flare of power, but she feels it, the attention, not invasive, but absolute. You are designated 11, he says, but that is not your name. She clenches her fists. No, but people use it. A faint ripple moves through the air, not amusement, acknowledgement. Names matter, he replies. They are claims upon identity. Designations are constraints upon it. Dustin whispers, okay, now I am convinced this guy is a philosophy professor. Erica folds her arms. Or a cult leader. The figure continues unfazed. If I were to give you my name as it is spoken in the era I come from, it would mean nothing to you. It would only frighten you. Will speaks up, voice thin. You come from another time? A pause. Another age, he corrects gently. Another branch of humanity's future. The kids stare. Future. The word doesn't fit anything they know. Parallel dimensions? Sure. Secret labs? Absolutely. Intelligent shadow monsters? Sadly, yes. But a future so distant its representative talks like a monument? That's new. While the others grapple with the idea, 11's power stirs. She doesn't push it. She doesn't dare. But the proximity of that much psychic presence makes her abilities vibrate like a tuning fork. She sees flashes, not images, impressions, a throne, a screaming light that hurts to look at, giants in armor kneeling, stars swallowed by storms, an entire species organized around a single silent figure. Her nose prickles. She wipes it quickly, refusing to bleed in front of him. Mike notices anyway. Elle. She shakes her head. I'm okay. The golden figure speaks, voice gentler now. You were not meant to bear such weight, child. Her jaw tightens. Neither were you. The forest seems to hold its breath. For the first time, his head inclines slightly lower. No, he agrees. Neither was I. Lucas, ever the practical one, cuts through the metaphysics. Look, cosmic future time guy or whatever, are you here to help us, or are you another problem? The figure considers the question as though it is not simple, because it isn't. I am here because something that hungers has extended itself into this place, he says, something that should not exist in this configuration. Will's skin crawls. Vecna. The golden head turns slightly. That is your name for him. Max steps forward now, eyes narrowing. You've seen him? I have touched his mind. The temperature seems to drop. Dustin takes a sharp breath. And you're still sane? The being does not answer that directly. Instead, he is not of my cosmos. He is parasite, adapting to the weaknesses of this one. 11's voice is almost a whisper. Can you stop him? A pause. Longer this time. Not uncertainty. Calculation. Yes. Hope flares in Mike's chest, in Will's, in Dustin's, in everyone's. Too fast, too loud, too soon. Then the voice continues. But I should not. The hope shatters. Excuse me? Erica snaps. Cosmic Dad shows up, says he can fix the murderer dimension, then hits us with a should not? The figure's presence grows heavier, not oppressive, just undeniable. I come from an age built on intervention, he says. on stepping into every conflict, reshaping every threat until humanity no longer remembered how to stand without my hand. He pauses as if tasting old regret. The second you rely on me to solve this for you, you cease to be the authors of your own future. Dustin throws his hands up. Yeah, cool, stellar moral philosophy. Meanwhile, we're squishy mortals with a recurring demonic world-breaker problem. Will's voice is strained. We're already in this because someone else decided our future for us. He doesn't say Brenner, but it's there, in the room, between them. The golden figure nods once. I am not here to abandon you. I am here to understand the parameters of this anomaly and prevent it from metastasizing beyond this world. Max squints. That sounds a lot like I'll save the universe, good luck with your town. For the first time, there's something almost like warmth in his tone. Your town, he says, may determine the outcome of more than you realize. The air tightens again, not in menace, in decision. I will not wage this war for you, he says, but I will not leave you defenseless. Dustin leans in, suddenly hopeful again. Like intel, weapons, a warp-proof bunker, a how-to-beat extra-dimensional sociopaths manual. The figure does not react to the barrage. I will give you understanding. Erica groans. Oh, fantastic, homework. He continues, you face an enemy who knows your fears better than you do. He shapes your memories against you. He is powerful because your minds are disordered, your pain unintegrated. 11 winces. Every word lands like a diagnosis. I cannot heal your wounds, he says, but I can show you where they connect to the fractures he exploits. Will's heart is pounding. You can show us how he gets in? More than that. The golden glow around him dims slightly, concentrating inward. I can show you what he is missing. In the upside down, Vecna stiffens. He feels the golden presence lean closer to the children's minds, not touching, but aligning. He senses danger, not just to them, to him. He sends a ripple of hate through the hive mind, stirring distant creatures. The dimension hums in discomfort, but he hesitates to attack. Not yet. He needs to see what this so-called guardian intends. So he watches as the Emperor's shard begins to speak not at the children, but with them. The Emperor's voice softens, not out of pity, out of precision. You have all survived this enemy, he says. Not because you are stronger, but because you are together. Lucas frowns. That's kind of our thing, yeah. He feeds on isolation, the Emperor continues. On secrets, on the lie whispered into trauma that says, you are alone in this. Max looks away. 11 stares at the ground. Will's throat tightens. If I am to prevent this contagion from spreading beyond this world, he says, you must become capable of resisting him without breaking. Mike swallows. How? The golden figure looks at each of them in turn, not reading them, recognizing them. By understanding what you fear, he answers, and choosing together what you will be in spite of it. Dustin whispers, so, you're not here as our god. No, the Emperor replies. I am here as your witness, and if necessary, as your final boundary. 11 lifts her head, her voice steadies. Then teach us. The clearing goes very still. The upside down trembles. And far above Hawkins, where no one can see, the warp and this strange parallel realm flare against each other. Because a god has agreed to instruct children in how to defy a monster that should never have existed. The golden figure stands at the clearing's center, still as a monument, quiet as an answer waiting to be understood. The children form a loose semicircle around him, not out of reverence, but instinct. Some part of them, deep and primal, knows they are standing at the threshold of something that will change them. 11 steps closest. Will lingers near the back. Max folds her arms like armor. Dustin's foot taps too fast. Lucas tries to look calm for Max's sake. Mike keeps glancing at Elle, fear for her eclipsing his fear of the being before them. Erica looks ready to test the god with a verbal spear at any moment. The Emperor's shard surveys them, not as soldiers, not as pawns, but as fragile vessels of potential. His voice drifts like a low hum through the trees. We begin. And reality shifts. Warp phenomena typically roar, distort, tear at the seams of reality. They demand attention like wounds do. But this is different. The Emperor does not summon warp light. He summons context. The air thickens, not in fear, in clarity. To the children, the clearing suddenly feels like the echo of a cathedral they've never seen, as though every sound is a fraction more meaningful, every color a fraction more symbolic. The Emperor raises his hand slightly. Fear is not a weakness, he says. It is a blueprint. Dustin nods aggressively. Finally, someone agrees with me! Erica elbows him. Fear is a blueprint for you to scream like a moron. Hey! The Emperor ignores them both. His hand rotates. And something in the world folds. Not violently, not chaotically, elegantly. A wave of shimmering air rolls outward like a curtain being pulled aside. And the clearing changes. The trees blur into silhouettes. The dirt becomes reflection. The sky becomes ink. The children gasp. They stand still in the same positions, but the clearing now looks half real, half imagined. A theater of the subconscious. Max whispers, "Are we in the upside down?" The Emperor answers, "No." He gestures around them. "You are in yourselves." Will's breath catches. 11 looks terrified. Dustin looks fascinated and terrified. Erica mutters, "This better not mess up my hair." The ground ripples. Will Byers stumbles backward as a familiar shape appears in faint, translucent form. A shed, a Christmas light glow, a shadow of himself, small and frightened, clutching a shotgun that looks too big for his hands. Will's entire body stiffens. "No, please, not this again." The Emperor speaks gently but without indulgence. "You were taken because you were isolated." Will shakes his head fiercely. "That's not true, I wasn't..." The Emperor's tone sharpens but remains calm. "Your fear fractured you. The creature followed the fracture." The shed darkness grows deeper, as if the mind flayer could reform from the memory alone. Mike steps toward Will, instinctively. Max grabs his arm. "Let him," she murmurs. Will trembles. He's lived this scene too many times in nightmares and waking flashbacks. But this time, there is something different. The Emperor raises his hand. Golden light touches the memory, not to erase it, but to reframe it. The shed brightens. Will's past self looks less like prey and more like someone enduring the impossible. The Emperor asks, "What did you feel most in this moment?" Will's throat closes. He forces the word out. "Alone." The Emperor's shard studies him. "You were not." Will's chin trembles. "But no one was there. Your fear blinded you to your bonds." He gestures and the memory shifts. Suddenly, in faint echo voices, Joyce screaming his name, Jonathan tearing through the woods, Mike, Dustin, Lucas desperately searching. Will's eyes widen. He had never seen it like this because he'd never viewed his trauma from outside his own terror. He whispers, They were looking for me the whole time?" The Emperor inclines his head. "Your fear told you otherwise. This is how your enemy finds purchase." Will's breathing steadies. Something fragile inside him tightens into something stronger. The Emperor watches carefully, calculating. He sees the shift. One fracture in Will's psyche has begun to seal. In the upside down, Vecna's eyes flare red. He feels Will's mind tighten. Closing a doorway that once let him slip through easily, he snarls. He teaches them to close themselves. He senses the Emperor's methodology, the way he reframes trauma not as wounds, but as battlegrounds reclaimed. This is unacceptable. Vecna tightens his grip on the hive mind. Vines constrict, flesh ripples, memory webs strain. The monster whispers, "You cannot teach them all." But he fears the golden intruder may try. The Emperor's shard turns. Max tenses. The world around her ripples. The memory arrives before she can prepare. The cemetery, Billy's grave, the sky bruised red, wind ripping through her hair, the weight of guilt pulling her chest inward like gravity localized to her ribs. She watches herself kneeling beside the headstone, looking small, lost, trying to hold together a heart broken in too many directions. Max stares, jaw clenched. "I don't need this," she growls. "You do," the Emperor replies softly. The headstone flickers. Billy's shape forms behind it. Not the monster Vecna used, not the hallucination she has fought, but Billy as he was. Flawed, impulsive, broken, human. Max's breath shudders. The Emperor asks, "What is your deepest fear?" She closes her eyes. "That I deserved what happened, that I failed him." The Emperor steps closer, but not too close. He knows the weight of grief. "Guilt is a chain," he says. "Your enemy would bind you with it until you could no longer stand." Max bites her lip. Her fists clench. "So what then? I just forgive myself." "No," the word is firm. "You understand yourself." The memory shifts. Max sees not the grave, not the guilt, but the moment Billy saved her. Not as trauma, as choice. "He died protecting you," the Emperor says, "not because you failed him, but because he chose who he wished to be." Max's eyes fill with tears. She tries not to cry. She fails, but failing now feels like something breaking open rather than breaking down. The Emperor nods. Another fracture begins to mend. The clearing shifts again before Eleven can brace herself. Hums of fluorescent lights, white walls, blood smeared across tile. Her younger self crying, hurt, terrified. The lab, her birth womb, her cage. She recoils. "No, no, I don't want... Please." The Emperor raises a hand. The memory pauses, frozen mid-collapse. 11 gasps, heart trembling like a frightened animal. The Emperor's voice lowers. "Your memories are not your enemy." She shakes her head. "They made me a monster." "No." He gestures toward the suspended memory. "They tried to make a weapon. You chose to be more." Her tears drip onto the forest floor. "So why do I still feel broken?" He looks at her, not with pity, with recognition, because power given in pain seeks purpose. Silence. The clearing seems to lean toward his words. "You must choose yours, child." This is the closest he has come to sounding gentle, and it nearly undoes her. Dustin rubs his eyes, overwhelmed. Lucas grips Max's shoulder supportively. Mike watches Elle as though world-ending truth is being carved into her bones. Will looks like he's witnessing something sacred and terrifying. Erica, uncharacteristically quiet, whispers, "This is messed up, but like the good kind of messed up." He steps away from the suspended memories. The clearing returns to normal, though the air still thrums with psychic aftershocks. "Your enemy preys on unhealed wounds," he says, "so you must make those wounds unusable." Will wipes his eyes. "How?" The Emperor gestures toward their hearts. "By knowing where you end and where each other begin." Max frowns. "That sounds vague." Dustin nods. "Yeah, we need more instructions, like a manual, preferably laminated." The Emperor's gaze sharpens. Then listen carefully. His voice deepens, echoing faintly in a way that is not acoustic. Fear isolates. You resist it by integration. Lucas frowns. Integration of what? Your stories. Erica tilts her head. Why does everything you say sound like it should be carved into a mountain? The Emperor continues. The creature feeds on division, on the lie that your pain is singular. He points at each of them in turn. You survived because you were not alone. You will prevail because you refuse isolation. 11 whispers, but he gets inside our heads. Then make your heads not rooms but halls. The children stare. Dustin nods slowly. He's describing a psychic network like a hive mind, but good. The Emperor inclines his head. Yes. Will's throat tightens. You mean, we link together? You already do, you simply do not do it with intention. The group goes silent, the idea is terrifying and exactly right. The Emperor's shard steps back, golden light dimming as if giving them space to breathe. You have taken the first step, he says. 11 wipes her tears, strength settles into her posture. Max breathes long and slow, the weight on her chest lighter. Will feels the phantom ache of the mind flayer weaken. Lucas feels Max's hand tighten in his, and for once that doesn't scare him. Dustin looks like he's already building a conspiracy board in his head. Mike steps closer to 11, offering silent support. Erica cracks her knuckles. So what's next, gold guy? The Emperor's light flickers, almost amusement. Next, he says, your enemy will try to unmake what you have just built. A chill shoots through all of them. The clearing dims, the wind holds its breath, the world leans inward, because somewhere in the upside down, Vecna smiles and reshapes his plan. In the upside down, time is a suggestion, a memory wearing the shape of ours. Vecna stands at the edge of his living domain, surrounded by drifting spores and pulsing vine mass that reacts to his thoughts like muscle to nerve. He feels the children's minds. He feels the subtle tightening, the closing of cracks that used to gape open. He feels the golden intruder's influence like a cold, clean blade pressed against his throat. For the first time in a long time, Vecna does not respond with rage. He responds with intelligence. He studies the Emperor's method, not force, not domination, not fear, integration, a bonded network, a hall instead of rooms. Vecna's lips curl slightly. Then I will not break them individually, he whispers into the fungal air. I will break the network. The Upside Down shudders in agreement, though it does not understand. Vecna does. Networks have weaknesses not in their strength, but in their reliance. If one node collapses, the others strain to hold it up. So he chooses his target not based on vulnerability, but on importance. He chooses the anchor. Mike. Not because Mike is the weakest, Vecna knows better, because Mike is emotional gravity. If Mike falls, the others orbit wrong. Vecna lifts a hand, threads of psychic filament weaving between his fingers. He does not open a gate. He does not send a monster. He sends an idea, a dream with teeth. Back in the clearing, the Emperor's shard watches the children as they regroup. Still shaky, still raw, but subtly altered. Max wipes her eyes with annoyance. Dustin mutters about psychic architecture. Will looks like someone who just remembered how to breathe. 11 stands straighter, not healed, but oriented. The Emperor feels the shift in them. It is small, but so is every beginning. Then, Mike's eyes unfocus. No warning, no drama. He sways slightly as if he's about to faint. 11 reaches for him instinctively. Mike? His lips part. He doesn't answer, his pupils dilate, and a cold pressure fills the clearing. Will flinches. Max steps back. Dustin's voice cracks. Guys? That's... That's not normal. Mike's breath quickens. His face pales like someone watching something horrible on the inside. Then he whispers, "L." 11's heart drops. "I'm here." But Mike's eyes don't see her. They see something else. He swallows, voice trembling. "You're gone." The word is small, but it detonates. 11 stiffens. "No, Mike, no!" Mike's voice fractures. "I couldn't save you." And then his knees buckle. Lucas catches Mike before he hits the ground. Dustin crouches beside him, frantic. "Mike! Mike! Come on, dude, talk to me!" Mike's face contorts in silent terror. He isn't seizing. His body is steady. It's his mind that is drowning. Will presses a hand against his own chest, feeling the resonance. "Vecna," he whispers. Max's jaw tightens. He found a new way in. 11's eyes burn. She kneels beside Mike, hands trembling above him as if afraid to touch him and make it worse. "Mike, listen to me." But Mike is somewhere else, and in that somewhere else, Vecna has arranged the room. Mike stands in a familiar space that is wrong in subtle ways. The Wheeler basement, the table with the D&D map, the worn couch, the shelves of board games. Everything is exactly as it should be, except the air is colder, the shadows are deeper, the corners seem to watch him. On the table, a D&D figure stands upright, a small painted miniature. 11's stand-in from childhood games, a symbol of hope and weirdness and salvation. The figure is cracked down the middle. Mike's throat tightens. He hears a clock. Tick, tick, tick. Vecna's voice comes from behind him, low and intimate, like a secret whispered into a wound. "You built your strength on her," Vecna says, "and strength built on one pillar always collapses when the pillar falls." Mike spins around. Vecna is not fully present, not in physical form. He is a shadow in the corner, a suggestion of a tall figure with too many angles. Mike's voice shakes. "Get out of my head." Vecna's laugh is soft. "You invited me," he replies. "Every time you wondered if you were enough, every time you feared you couldn't protect them." The basement walls subtly pulse as if alive. The D&D table becomes a surgical table. Mike's lungs tighten. He sees 11 strapped down, younger, terrified, blood at her nose. He tries to run to her, and the floor becomes tar. He can't move. Vecna steps closer, not walking but arriving. "You want to be the anchor," Vecna whispers. "But anchors don't save ships from storms. They only drown with them." Mike's eyes fill with tears. "No," he pleads. "No, please." 11 screams, and the scream becomes silence. 11's nose begins to bleed. A slow, dark trickle. She doesn't wipe it away. She places her hand on Mike's temple, eyes closing. She drops into the void, black water, endless horizon. Mike is there, a flicker, a drowning flame. Vecna's presence wraps around him like black vines. 11 reaches. Vecna turns his attention toward her, a cold smile in the void. "You bring an audience?" Vecna whispers. 11's voice is steel. "Leave him." Vecna laughs. "You misunderstand," he says. "I'm not taking him, I'm showing him the truth." 11 lunges psychically, trying to sever Vecna's hold. The vines resist. Not stronger than her, but smarter. Woven through Mike's insecurities like threads through cloth. If she yanks too hard, she will tear Mike. 11's breath becomes ragged. She's trapped, and Vecna knows it. Until now, the Emperor has been a witness, a boundary, an observer refusing to become the solution. But the network is being attacked. And the attack is not random. It is a deliberate strike against their integration. Vecna is attempting to poison the hallways so that every mind becomes a trap for the others. The Emperor's shard speaks, voice low. "Clever." The word is not admiration. It is acknowledgement of threat. He steps forward. The clearing darkens around him, not because his light dims, but because everything else is suddenly less real. Max feels it and stumbles back, hand to her mouth. Dustin's voice cracks. "Okay, whatever you are, please don't explode the forest." The Emperor doesn't look at Dustin. He looks at Mike, then at 11, then at the invisible geometry of Vecna's psychic intrusion. His tone becomes precise. "He has learned to strike the network," he says. Will shakes, whispering, "Can you stop it?" The Emperor's shard answers immediately, "Yes." Then after a pause, "And I must." He lifts his hand, not a finger this time, a full hand, palm outward. Golden light gathers, not bright but dense like compressed sunlight. He does not send it into the void violently. He inserts it gently like a scalpel into a wound. 11 feels it first. A heat behind her eyes, a gravity behind her thoughts. The void shudders. Vecna's shadow pauses. For the first time, he hesitates in the mindscape, because he recognizes the presence. The golden intruder has stepped into the psychic arena without opening a gate, without traveling, without permission. The void's black water ripples gold. A tall silhouette forms behind 11, not fully visible, not fully comprehensible, but undeniably there. Vecna's voice tightens. "You violate the boundary you claimed." The Emperor's voice responds, calm as judgment. "You forced my hand." Vecna snarls, "This is not your world." The Emperor replies, "You made it my concern." He extends his will into the vines wrapping Mike's mind, and instead of tearing them, he relabels them. Vecna's vines are made of fear, fear of losing 11, fear of failing his friends, fear of being inadequate. The Emperor touches the fear and changes its role, not erasing it, reassigning it. Fear becomes signal, fear becomes warning, fear becomes bond. Mike's mind, drowning, feels the shift. The basement around him stops collapsing. 11's scream returns, but now it becomes a hand reaching toward him. Mike gasps, coughing, as if surfacing from deep water. Vecna recoils, his vines unravel. Not because they are broken, but because the foundation they used no longer functions the way it did. Vecna's voice turns sharp. "You cannot rewrite human emotion." The Emperor answers, "I have done nothing else for 10,000 years." The line hits like a hammer. Vecna's shadow flares furious. "Then try rewriting this." He strikes. A psychic spike shoots toward 11, aimed not at her mind, but at her identity. A vision of the lab, the restraints, the word monster. 11 flinches, and the Emperor's presence expands. The vision freezes mid-flight, then dissolves into dust. The Emperor's voice is suddenly colder. "Enough!" Vecna's shadow retreats, not fully defeated, but forced back. He withdraws from Mike's mind, not because he wants to, because he has to. Mike jolts awake like someone returning from drowning. He inhales sharply, coughing. 11 grabs him, holding his face. "Mike! Mike! Are you okay?" Mike stares at her, shaking. I thought you were gone." 11's eyes burn with tears. "I'm here." Will collapses onto a log, trembling. Max wipes her cheeks angrily. Dustin exhales, hands on his head. Erica finally speaks, voice tight. "Okay, so that was insane." The Emperor's shard lowers his hand. His golden glow dims slightly, as if spending will costs even him in ways mortals cannot perceive. He looks at the children. "You see now," he says quietly, "why I resisted intervention." Mike swallows, voice hoarse. "He can get inside us." The Emperor nods. "And now he knows I can enter with you." A beat of silence. 11 whispers, "So it's worse?" The Emperor's reply is immediate. "It is clearer." He turns his gaze toward the fracture, unseen but present. "This is no longer a local haunting," he says. "It is now a contested war." In the Upside Down, Vecna watches through the hive mind, eyes burning with calculated hatred. He has learned something vital. The Emperor will intervene if the children are used as leverage. So Vecna smiles, because leverage is exactly what he intends to perfect. They leave the clearing the way people leave a funeral. Quiet, disoriented, unable to agree on what part of themselves just died or just changed. No one jokes on the ride back, not even Dustin. The woods look the same, but the air feels as though it now contains an invisible second atmosphere, a layer of meaning pressing against everything. 11 rides close to Mike, as if proximity can prevent the nightmare from repeating. Will keeps glancing at the tree line, feeling that the Upside Down is listening. More awake now, more attentive. Max's hands tremble on the handlebars, but she refuses to acknowledge it. Lucas rides slightly behind her, the way you follow someone you're afraid might vanish. Erica's expression is stone. She hates uncertainty. And this is uncertainty at the scale of eternity. They do not need to speak to know the problem. They've met something that isn't a monster, not in the Hawkins sense, not in the Vecna sense. Something else. A being that speaks like a verdict. And now they have to do the most impossible task in Hawkins. Tell an adult. Without sounding insane, without being dismissed, without putting a target on themselves, without telling the wrong adult. Because Hawkins has taught them the cruelest lesson. Sometimes adults make everything worse. Jim Hopper wakes to a sound he doesn't recognize at first. A faint crackle of static coming from the radio on his kitchen counter. He squints at it, annoyed. The dial isn't even on, yet the speaker emits a low, intermittent hiss like a distant snake. Hopper reaches over, taps it. The static stops, then starts again. Not random, but patterned. Hopper sits up straighter. He's learned to trust patterns the same way you trust a loaded gun. He turns the dial, nothing, static, static, static. Then, for half a second, a human voice, not a broadcast, not a station. A voice that sounds like it was recorded in a cathedral and then played through a tin can. "Prepare!" Hopper freezes. The static returns, swallowing the word. He stares at the radio, heart pounding. He's heard a lot of weird things in Hawkins. Whispers in the walls, strange frequencies, the Upside Down's atmospheric bite. But that voice, that word, it wasn't threatening, it wasn't pleading. It was a command. Hopper rubs his face, exhaling. "Okay," he mutters. "Okay, that's fine, we're doing this again." He pours coffee anyway. When Hopper opens his cabin door, he expects quiet. He expects maybe Elle, maybe Mike. Maybe a small teenage crisis. He does not expect the entire party standing in his yard with the collective expression of people who have seen the inside of hell and brought homework back with them. Hopper stares at them. They stare back. For a full second, no one speaks, then Dustin blurts, "So, we met a god." Hopper's eyes narrow. "I'm sorry, what?" Erica steps forward like a prosecutor. "Not a god like church. More like a cosmic future psychic king god. He's in the woods. We think he's fighting Vecna." Hopper looks at Elle. Elle doesn't argue. She doesn't roll her eyes. She doesn't say Dustin is being dramatic. She just nods. Hopper's stomach drops. Elle is the litmus test for nonsense. If she says it's real, it's real. He steps onto the porch slowly. "Elle," he says quietly, "tell me what happened." Elle's voice is low. Something new came, not Upside Down, not Vecna, something older. Hopper frowns. "Older than the Upside Down?" Elle nods once. Mike steps forward. "He got inside my head, Vecna did, and then the other thing stopped him." Hopper's jaw tightens, Max adds, voice tight, "And he said he could stop Vecna's, but he doesn't want to do it for us." Hopper stares. "Of course he doesn't." Dustin throws his hands up. Thank you. Finally, someone agrees it's weird. Hopper sighs and motions them inside. All right, everyone in. No one says God again until I've had more coffee. They sit around the table like it's an interrogation and a therapy session and a war council. Hopper listens without interrupting. He's learned in Hawkins that cutting off the kids is how you die. He hears about the clearing, the pressure, the voice, the way Vecna struck Mike and the golden presence intervened. He watches Elle's face when she describes the order feeling. He watches Will's hands tremble when he admits he felt the dimensions shift. Hopper does the math quietly. Something powerful arrived. It is not Brenner, not the Russians, not any human agency. It is outside the scope of his experience. But Hawkins has taught him to distrust scope. He exhales slowly. Okay, he says. Couple questions. He points at Mike. 1, are you okay? Mike nods, swallowing. Yeah, I think so. Hopper points at Will. 2, do you feel Vecna right now? Will closes his eyes, concentrating. Not like before, but I feel him watching, like he's waiting. Hopper grunts. 3, why the hell didn't you come to me first? Everyone talks at once. Because adults, because last time, because we didn't know. Hopper raises a hand. Okay, fair, I deserve that. He turns to Elle. Did this thing, this gold thing, hurt you? Elle shakes her head. No, but it's heavy. It's like standing near a storm that isn't raining. Hopper looks down. He doesn't like storms. He likes enemies he can shoot. But he understands something else too. If this presence is real and it's opposing Vecna, then it could be an ally. Or it could be something worse. Because in Hawkins, every ally comes with a cost. Hopper stands. He points toward the woods. All right, we're doing this the right way. Dustin perks up. Finally, adult. Supervision! Erica mutters. Don't get excited, adult supervision usually makes it worse. Hopper glares. Erica grins. Hopper turns to Elle. You're coming with me. Mike instantly protests. No! Hopper cuts him off. Mike, I'm not leaving her alone with this. And I'm not leaving you kids alone with Vecna. He looks at Will. And you're coming too. Will stiffens. Hopper's voice softens, just slightly. I know, but you're the compass. We need you. Will nods reluctantly. Max steps forward. We're coming too. Hopper's eyes flash. Absolutely not. Max doesn't blink. We were already there. We already saw him. You can't unknow something. Dustin nods vigorously. And if he's cosmic and weird, he might need a translator. Erica folds her arms. And if he tries to recruit you into a cult, I want front row seats. Hopper stares at them all and realizes with a sinking feeling that they are not children anymore, not in the way he wants them to be. He exhales, defeated. Fine, but you stay behind me, you hear me? Everyone nods like liars. They walk toward the clearing with the slow dread of people approaching a locked door that might open from the other side. The forest grows quieter as they near it, not because birds stop singing, but because the space itself is paying attention. Hopper's instincts scream. This isn't like approaching a Demogorgon nest. This isn't a tactical fear. This is the fear of being observed by something you cannot bargain with. Elle's nose begins to bleed slightly, but she wipes it away quickly. Mike grips her hand. Will shivers. Dustin whispers, "Do you guys feel that? Like, the air is heavier?" Hopper nods grimly. "I feel it." They reach the clearing and stop. The Emperor's shard stands exactly where he was, a golden silhouette against morning haze. Hopper's mouth goes dry. He has seen monsters, He has faced government men with guns. He has been to hell and back. This is different. This is not a monster. This is a presence. The Emperor turns his head. Slowly, deliberately, his attention falls on Hopper. The weight of it is immediate. Hopper feels irrationally like his entire life is being evaluated in a single glance. He forces his voice to work. "All right," Hopper says, trying for firm and failing. "You. Who are you?" The Emperor's voice answers, smooth and ancient. "You are the guardian of these children." Hopper stiffens. "That's not an answer." The golden figure steps forward one pace. The sunlight seems to dim around him as if the world is adjusting exposure. It is the most relevant one. Hopper swallows, grip tightening on his revolver despite knowing it's useless. Elle watches, eyes wide. Will trembles. Mike whispers, "Please don't make him mad." Dustin whispers back, "Please don't make him philosophical." Erica whispers, "Please don't make me have to fight a god. I skipped breakfast." The Emperor's shard looks at Hopper. "You desire a name," he says. "Very well." The clearing feels like it leans in. "In the era I come from, I am called many things, but the simplest is this." He pauses, not for drama, for gravity. "The Emperor." The word hits the forest like a bell struck underwater. Hopper's mind races. Emperor of what? Of where? Of when? He doesn't ask yet because Will suddenly gasps. His hands clutch his chest, his eyes roll back, and the air goes cold. The fracture responds, Vecna moves, and Hawkins once again is about to be reminded that introductions are a luxury when the war is already underway. Will Byers doesn't scream. He never does anymore. His body stiffens first. Like a marionette whose strings were yanked all at once. Then his knees buckle. Mike shouts his name. Max lunges forward. Lucas catches Will before he hits the ground, arms shaking under the sudden weight. Will's eyes are open, too open. They stare through the clearing, past the trees, past the Emperor's golden silhouette, into something that does not exist in this world. His lips move. No sound comes out. Then, a whisper torn straight from his lungs. He's angry. The temperature drops. Frost spiderwebs across fallen leaves, a thin, crystalline sheen creeping outward from Will's body. The fracture responds, not visibly, but the air tightens like a muscle clenching. The Emperor turns his attention instantly, golden light sharpening around him. Vecna has chosen his moment well. Will's chest rises and falls too fast. His fingers curl into claws, scraping at Lucas's jacket. "Will, stay with me," Lucas pleads. Will's mouth opens again. This time, the voice that emerges is not entirely his own. It is layered, warped, resonant. "You brought him here," Vecna says, speaking through Will's throat. "You brought the jailer into my house." 11 recoils as if struck. Her nose bleeds freely now. "Get out of him," she snarls. The Emperor does not move. Not yet. Vecna's voice continues, dripping satisfaction. "You children think yourselves architects now, but you do not understand structure." Hopper draws his gun by reflex, then immediately feels ridiculous. He keeps it raised anyway. "All right, asshole," Hopper growls. "You're done using the kid." Vecna laughs through Will's mouth. "Still pretending bullets matter." Hopper grits his teeth. "They matter to me." The Emperor finally speaks. "Release him." The words are not loud. They do not echo. But the upside down convulses. Will gasps violently, body arching as if something is being torn loose. Vecna resists. The fracture pulses, feeding him leverage. He pushes back. "You claim restraint," Vecna hisses, "but you have already crossed your line." The Emperor steps forward. The ground compresses beneath his feet, leaves flattening as though pressed by immense gravity. "You used a child as a mouthpiece," he replies. "That line was crossed by you." Hopper watches the exchange, god and monster arguing over a boy's body, and something in him snaps. He steps between the Emperor and Will, one hand on Will's shoulder, the other still holding the useless gun. "I don't care who started what," Hopper growls, "but in my town, you don't use kids as weapons." The Emperor's gaze drops to Hopper. For a terrifying second, Hopper feels like the sum total of his failures. Sarah, the drinking, the anger, the nights he didn't save anyone are laid bare. Then, something unexpected. Respect. "You are correct," the Emperor says. Vecna snarls. "You side with insects now?" The Emperor's voice hardens. "I side with Guardians." Golden light gathers around Will. Not inside him. Around him. A cocoon threaded delicately through the air so as not to tear his mind further. The Emperor does not expel Vecna violently, he isolates him. Vecna's voice fractures mid-sentence. "You think." The sound cuts off. Will convulses once, then collapses fully into Lucas's arms. The frost recedes, the air loosens, the fracture trembles, but does not widen. The Emperor lowers his hand slowly. "I have severed the active channel," he says, "but the connection remains." 11's voice is raw. "He's still linked." The Emperor nods. "Yes," Dustin swallows. "That's not great." In the upside down, Vecna stumbles back from the psychic recoil, clutching at his own head. The golden presence did not destroy him. Worse, it contained him, limited his angles, forced him to operate with care. Vecna breathes slowly, mind racing. The Emperor will intervene when a child is used directly. Good, that is a rule. Rules can be exploited. Vecna smiles thinly. "Then I will not touch them directly," he murmurs. "I will let them touch each other." He turns his attention outward, toward Hawkins, toward parents, toward fear, toward secrets that fester without monsters, toward adults. Will lies unconscious but breathing, sweat-soaked and pale. Joyce's name tumbles from Hopper's mouth immediately. "We need to get him home. Now!" The Emperor inclines his head. "He will survive this encounter." Hopper snaps. "You don't get credit for that." The Emperor does not argue. 11 grips Will's hand. "I should have stopped him sooner." The Emperor looks at her. "You did stop him," he says. "You did not fail." Her shoulders sag slightly, the weight of self-blame easing by a fraction. Max stares at the Emperor. "You said you wouldn't fight our war." The Emperor meets her gaze evenly. "I said I would not replace you." Hopper exhales sharply. "So what happens now?" The Emperor looks toward the tree line, toward Hawkins. "Now," he says, "your enemy adapts." Hopper steps closer, lowering his voice. "All right, Emperor, we're past introductions." He gestures at Will, at the shaken kids, at the fracture humming in the air. "You know things we don't, you can do things we can't." The Emperor listens. Hopper continues. "And whether you like it or not, these kids are already in this fight." The Emperor nods once. "I am aware." Hopper clenches his jaw. "Then we need rules." The Emperor's golden light shifts, subtly sharpening. "Agreed." Hopper points back toward town. "Rule 1, no more using kids as battlegrounds." The Emperor answers immediately. "I will not initiate psychic contact with them without consent." 11 blinks. Consent. That word alone sets this being apart from Brenner, from Vecna, from every authority that ever claimed her. Hopper continues. "Rule 2. You warn us when Vecna makes a move." The Emperor inclines his head. "When it does not compromise containment." Hopper grimaces. Figures. He hesitates, then adds, "Rule 3. If this goes sideways, you don't abandon them." The Emperor is silent for several seconds, long enough to make Hopper nervous. Then, "I will not allow this anomaly to consume this world." It is not a promise of safety. It is a promise of limits. Hopper accepts it anyway. As they prepare to move Will, Dustin whispers to 11, "He's not what I expected." 11 nods. "Me neither." Max mutters, "He scares me." Lucas replies quietly, "Yeah, but Vecna scares me more." The Emperor watches them, children standing at the fault line of reality, and feels something rare ripple through his consciousness. Not regret, something quieter, concern. He has seen entire civilizations rise and burn, but this is small, personal, and therefore dangerous. Because small things can be lost, as Hopper helps lift Will, the Emperor turns slightly, his attention flicking skyward. The fracture quivers again, not expanding but branching, subtle. Like hairline cracks in glass, Vecna is no longer probing directly, he is spreading influence, whispers, dreams, fear. Hawkins will begin to turn on itself. Parents will doubt their children. Authority will panic. Secrets will surface. The Emperor speaks quietly, almost to himself. He has chosen escalation by entropy. Hopper pauses. What does that mean? The Emperor looks at him. It means your enemy has decided that if he cannot break the children, he will break the town. A distant rumble rolls through the woods. Not thunder, not yet, but something like the clearing, remembering how storms begin. It breaks like a neighborhood, slowly, in whispers, in sideways glances at the grocery store, in church pews suddenly filled with suspicion, in parents watching their own children as if they're waiting for proof of corruption. Vecna understands people, not because he loves them, but because he was one once, and because human fear is the easiest material to build prisons from. So he stops trying to tear open Hawkins with claws and monsters. He begins to rot it from the inside. It starts with dreams. Over one night, Hawkins becomes a town with too little sleep. People wake sweating. Children cry without knowing why. Adults stare at their ceilings and feel the residue of terror like grease on skin. The dreams are mundane at first, the kind that could be dismissed. A mother dreams she can't find her son in a mall. A deputy dreams his gun melts in his hand. A pastor dreams his church is empty and his voice doesn't carry. But then the patterns emerge. Everyone dreams of the same thing. A hallway, dim, endless, walls that sweat with moisture, a faint ticking. A clock they never reach. And in the hallway, a presence. Not always visible, but always there. A pressure behind the eyes, a suggestion of being watched by something patient enough to wait for you to weaken. By morning, Hawkins is different. Not obviously, but in the way animals are different after an earthquake they sensed before it happened. Joyce Byers hasn't slept properly in years. Trauma rewired her before anyone believed her, and now her nervous system doesn't trust peace. Will lies in bed, pale but breathing, still recovering from the clearing. Doctors call it stress, Hopper calls it Vecna, Joyce calls it a warning. She sits beside Will's bed and watches his eyelids flutter. Then the phone rings. Joyce freezes. The phone hasn't rung like that, not in that tone since the first time the walls spoke to her. She answers with shaking hands. "Hello?" Static, a faint hiss. Then a voice too quiet, too close. "He can't save you!" Joyce's blood turns to ice. "Who is this?" The line clicks dead. Joyce sits very still, staring at the receiver. Hopper sees her expression from the kitchen doorway and knows instantly. Vecna has shifted targets, not the kids, the parents. Sheriff's office radios begin to glitch again. Streetlights flicker in synchronized bursts. A power transformer blows on the east side of town. Nothing catastrophic, just enough to create conversation. Fear spreads the way rumors spread. By midday, the phrase "something's wrong" has traveled across Hawkins without anyone agreeing on what it means. Deputies start receiving calls. A woman says her son is hearing a clock. A man claims his basement feels cold like death. A teacher says her students are all drawing the same hallway, small reports. But together they resemble the early geometry of a contagion. Hopper feels it, tightening. He knows how towns behave under pressure. They don't unite. They look for someone to blame, someone to burn. In the clearing, the Emperor remains a quiet anchor. His presence stabilizes the dimensional overlap, preventing Vecna from opening a wide gate. But he watches the town's human collapse with a colder kind of concern. This is not a battle he can win with power. This is a battle of belief. Panic is a weapon that requires no monsters. The Emperor murmurs, he understands how empires fall. The statement carries the weight of confession. He has watched civilizations implode from within, not because enemies were stronger, but because fear turned citizens into predators. Vecna is not merely hunting bodies, he is cultivating distrust as a psychic fertilizer. And Hawkins is fertile. The party gathers again at Hopper's cabin, faces drawn tight with exhaustion. Max is the first to speak. My mom's acting weird, like paranoid weird. Lucas nods. My dad said the radio said something. He thinks it's Russians. Erica scoffs. Adults always think it's Russians. Dustin's eyes are bloodshot. It's like the whole town is synchronized, not possessed, just tuned. Will rubs his temples, grimacing. I can feel it. Vecna's not in one person, he's everywhere, like fog. 11 sits quietly, fists clenched. She has tried to find Vecna in the void. She can't, not because he's gone, because he's distributed. Mike whispers. So what do we do? We can't fight a town turning against itself. Silence. Then, unexpectedly, Hopper speaks. You keep your heads. You don't isolate. You stay together. He glances at the Emperor's direction, toward the woods, and lowers his voice. And we don't let people find out there's a cosmic thing in the forest. Dustin frowns. Yeah, about that. What happens if they do? Hopper doesn't answer, because he knows they'll try to weaponize it, or worship it, or destroy it, and Vecna will use the chaos. That night, Hawkins gets its first body. A man is found in his garage, eyes wide, bones shattered, face frozen in a shape of terror that looks like he watched something eat his mind. The town doesn't know Vecna's name, but they know evil when they see it. News spreads fast. The mayor calls meetings, police increase patrols, parents keep their children indoors, and in every conversation something unspoken is present. We are under attack. But when people don't know the attacker, they invent one. Rumors flare. A cult, a satanic group. Government experiments again. The Byers family, Hopper's cabin. That strange girl who disappeared and came back. 11. The kids feel the net tightening. Vecna smiles in the upside down, because this is what he wanted. Fear without a clear target always finds a scapegoat. In the clearing, the Emperor feels the first death ripple through Hawkins like a stone dropped into a pond. A life ended by psychic predation creates a resonant scar. The fracture feeds, Vecna grows bolder. The Emperor speaks softly into the night. If I remain unseen, the contagion spreads. But if he reveals himself, fully publicly, he risks something far worse. He becomes a symbol, and symbols create fanaticism. Fanaticism creates chaos. Even in a world that doesn't know the warp, human worship can still produce psychic storms. He knows this intimately. He built an imperium on belief and watched belief become a weapon that cut its own hand. His voice is calm, but underneath it is something close to pain. To be known is to be used. Hopper, standing at the edge of the clearing, hears him. "So what's your plan?" Hopper asks. The Emperor turns slightly. "Containment." Hopper's jaw tightens. Containment isn't gonna stop a town from tearing itself apart. The Emperor's gaze deepens. "No." A pause. "But guidance might." Hopper feels a chill. "What kind of guidance?" The Emperor answers slowly. "A controlled revelation." The next day, Hawkins holds a town meeting at the courthouse. People pack into the hall, voices raised, eyes frantic. Hopper stands at the back watching the crowd. He sees it immediately. This isn't just fear, it's hunger for certainty. A town cannot live in ambiguity for long. It will either find truth or manufacture it. Vecna is counting on them manufacturing it. Hopper's radio crackles. A voice, again that cathedral in a tin can voice, whispers, "Now." Hopper stiffens. He looks outside. Above the courthouse, the sky subtly darkens as though a cloud passed overhead. But there are no clouds. Just a thin golden shift in the light, like the sun itself briefly hesitated. Inside the courthouse, the fluorescent lights flicker. The room goes quiet. One man whispers, "Did you see that?" Then, every radio in the courthouse erupts in static, every speaker hissing simultaneously. The crowd panics, and in the static, a voice speaks. Not loud, not theatrical, but impossible to ignore. "Hawkins is being preyed upon." People freeze. Some scream, some pray, some stare in disbelief. The voice continues. "Your fear feeds the predator. Your distrust opens doors. Your isolation is its feast." Hopper feels the room sway. This is insane. This is also working, because the crowd, for the first time, has a shared focal point, a shared narrative. The voice is not telling them what to worship. It is telling them what to stop doing, and that matters. A woman cries, "Who are you?" The voice answers, measured. A witness. The static rises again, then stops. The lights stabilize. The crowd erupts into chaos, but it's a different chaos now. Not aimless panic, directed confusion. And directed confusion is easier to steer than blind terror. Outside, Hopper stares at the sky. He doesn't see the Emperor, but he feels him like gravity on the bones. Hopper whispers, "You just put yourself on the board." A quiet reply crackles through the radio. "I placed a piece, not a king." In the upside down, Vecna stiffens. The Emperor has spoken publicly, but without revealing an image, without giving the town a face to worship or attack. Clever. Vecna's eyes narrow. He teaches them discipline. Vecna snarls. He doesn't want discipline. He wants chaos. But now the town has a new variable. A voice, a warning, a sense that fear itself is weaponized. Vecna will have to escalate again, not with rumor, with spectacle. He smiles slowly. "Then I will give them a face for their terror." Vecna understands something the Emperor does not fully respect. People do not remember warnings. They remember images. So he decides to give Hawkins one. Not subtle, not whispered, not hidden in dreams. He chooses daylight. He chooses children watching. He chooses a place that cannot be ignored. Hawkins High is louder than usual that afternoon. The town meeting has rattled nerves, but teenagers metabolize fear differently than adults. They talk louder. They laugh harder. They pretend nothing matters. Until it does. The bell rings. Lockers slam, students spill into the courtyard, and the air thickens, not cold, not hot, heavy. A pressure settles like a held breath. One student stops mid-sentence, another clutches her temples, someone laughs nervously. Anyone else feel that? The courtyard lights flicker. Not off, not on. In rhythm. Tick, tick, tick. A clock begins to echo where no clock exists. 11 is halfway across town with Mike when she stops, so suddenly he almost runs into her. Elle. Her eyes unfocus. Her breath shortens. She turns toward the school. No, she whispers. No, no, no. Mike follows her gaze. What? He's doing it on purpose, she says. He wants people to see. Mike's blood runs cold. See what? 11's voice cracks. Him. In the school courtyard, a boy named Aaron, average grades, average life, average pain, stands frozen. He hears the clock louder than anyone else. Tick, tick, tick. He looks up. The sky above Hawkins High is wrong. Not tearing, not storming, peeling. Like wallpaper lifting from a wall. Students scream, phones drop, teachers shout orders that go nowhere. The world's color drains slightly as if reality is being desaturated, and then a shape presses through the sky, not fully emerging, not yet, but visible. A tall silhouette, too thin, too angular, with limbs that bend wrong. Vecna does not fully cross. He projects, a psychic avatar woven from fear, broadcast through the fracture. His face forms last, sunken eyes. A ruined human mask wrapped around something that stopped being human. He smiles. Students scatter. Some fall. Some pray. Some record. Parents will watch those recordings later and argue over whether they're fake. But in the moment, no one doubts. Vecna raises one hand. Aaron's body lifts off the ground. Bones begin to creak. The sound is unmistakable. A scream rips from the crowd. Vecna's voice booms, not shouted but amplified by terror. Look! The command slams into every mind present. People look. They cannot not look. Vecna tightens his grip. Aaron convulses, suspended, eyes bleeding, mouth open in a silent plea. Vecna turns his gaze outward, not at the boy, at the town. This is what watches you! Bones snap. Aaron's body collapses inward, then drops like a broken marionette. The sky seals, the pressure lifts, silence falls. And Hawkins screams. Police sirens wail within minutes. Parents flood the streets. The story mutates instantly. Demon, government weapon, Satan himself, judgment. The courthouse voice is forgotten. Because now Hawkins has a face for its fear. Vecna has given them an image strong enough to overwrite reason, and images breed belief. Belief breeds power. In the upside down, Vecna exhales slowly. Now, he whispers. Let them choose. In the clearing, the Emperor's shard stiffens. The psychic backlash hits Hawkins like a detonated charge. A public death. Witnessed, recorded, shared. Fear spikes exponentially. The fracture feeds. The Emperor closes his eyes. For the first time since arriving, his restraint costs him something real. He has allowed the rules of this world to remain intact. He has allowed Vecna to act within the margins. Now those margins are collapsing. Hopper's voice shakes as he speaks. That was a massacre, the Emperor answers. It was an investment. 11 staggers, gripping Mike's arm. He wants them to believe in him, she gasps. Yes, the Emperor replies, and worse, to fear me for not stopping it. The Emperor looks toward Hawkins. The town's emotional field has begun to polarize. Some minds beg for salvation. Some rage at abandonment. Some demand a savior. Some demand blood. This is how gods are born and how worlds burn. Hopper slams his fist into a tree. You can't let this happen again! The Emperor's voice is quiet. If I intervene openly, belief will crystallize. Hopper snaps. People already believe something? The Emperor turns to him. They believe in fear. A pause. I must decide whether to become their answer or their boundary. 11 looks up at him, tears streaking her face. He killed someone, she whispers. He'll do it again. The Emperor meets her gaze. Yes! Mike's voice cracks. Then do something. The Emperor looks at the children, at Hopper, at Hawkins, at the fracture trembling like a live wire. And for the first time, his voice carries something dangerously close to sorrow. If I fully manifest, he says, this world will never forget me. Dustin whispers, is that bad? The Emperor answers honestly, it always is. That night, every television in Hawkins turns on, static. Then Vecna's face, clearer now, closer. You saw me, he says calmly. You felt the truth. Parents clutch their children. Guns are loaded, prayers are shouted. Vecna continues, you were warned of a watcher, and when I struck, where was he? The image glitches, then sharpens. I am here, I am real, I do not hide. His eyes burn. If your guardian exists, let him stop me. The broadcast ends. The challenge hangs in the air like a blade. Silence grips the clearing. The Emperor stands utterly still. Then he moves. The golden light around him intensifies. No longer contained, not unleashed, prepared. He speaks, not loudly, but with finality. He has forced revelation. Hopper swallows. What does that mean? The Emperor's voice is steady, but beneath it is something ancient awakening. It means the war is no longer covert. 11 steps forward. What happens now? The Emperor looks skyward toward Hawkins High, toward the town that just learned it is prey. Now, he says, I will show Vecna the difference between being feared and being judged. The clearing brightens, golden light bleeding upward into the sky like dawn breaking through cloud. The fracture screams. Vecna feels it. And for the first time since Hawkins became his throne, fear curls, not in his victims, but in him. That is what terrifies Hawkins most. There is no tear, no fire, no apocalyptic thunderclap. The sky simply reconsiders itself. Clouds slow. Light refracts strangely as if the sun has begun passing through a prism no one can see. People standing in the streets feel a pressure in their chests. Not crushing, not painful, but directive, like gravity suddenly remembered it has rules. Above Hawkins, the air hums, not with sound, with authority. He does not appear as a towering figure in the sky. He does not stride across rooftops in gold armor. He does not demand worship or kneeling. That would be a mistake. Instead, order manifests. Traffic lights lock into perfect synchronization. Every clock in Hawkins stops ticking. Not broken, but held. Wind aligns into slow, deliberate currents. Fire burns steadier. Water stills. People feel their thoughts sharpen. Fear does not vanish, but it becomes harder to spread. Panic slows, not gone, contained. The Emperor's presence settles over the town like an invisible lattice, a framework of intention laid gently atop reality. He has not entered Hawkins. He has enclosed it. She gasps, stumbling. Mike catches her. Elle, what's happening? Her eyes are wide, awe and terror mixed. It's quiet, she whispers. Not empty, organized. She closes her eyes. The void inside her head, normally turbulent, has edges now, boundaries. For the first time in her life, her power feels contextualized, not less, directed. She shudders. He's not fighting Vecna yet, she says. He's setting rules. In the upside down, Vecna roars, not aloud, psychically. His domain convulses, vines whipping, spores bursting into frantic motion. The golden presence has expanded, not as light, but as constraint. Paths Vecna once used freely are narrowing. Angles collapse. Psychic shortcuts no longer resolve cleanly. He feels it like a sudden law passed retroactively. You dare! Vecna snarls into the void. The Emperor does not answer, because this is not a conversation. it is zoning. In Hawkins Memorial Hospital, a nurse freezes mid-step. She blinks. Her breathing steadies. The panic attack she didn't realize was building dissolves like fog in sunlight. Across town, a man who was loading his shotgun hesitates. The rage drains enough for doubt to slip in. At the police station, radios stabilize. Sirens quiet. The town is not calm, but it is no longer spiraling. Vecna feels something new, resistance not rooted in courage, but in clarity. He hates it. Every radio, every television, every electronic device capable of output activates simultaneously, not static, not intrusion, perfect signal. The voice speaks not as volume, but as certainty. Hawkins is under quarantine. People gasp. Some drop to their knees, some scream, some laugh hysterically. The voice continues, not from disease, from predation. The words, land like weights. Remain where you are. Care for one another. Do not act on fear. Fear is being exploited. A pause, then. There will be no further warnings. The broadcast ends. No challenge, no threat, just law. Hopper stares at the radio, breath shallow. He didn't ask permission, Hopper mutters. The Emperor's shard stands beside him. Golden light now visible even in daylight. Not blinding, but impossible to ignore. No, the Emperor replies. I assumed responsibility. Hopper shakes his head slowly. You just declared martial law on a town that didn't vote for you. The Emperor turns to him. I have seen what happens when hesitation is mistaken for mercy. Hopper meets his gaze. And I've seen what happens when someone decides they know what's best for everybody else. The Emperor does not argue. He accepts the statement. Then watch me carefully, he says, and stop me if I cross the line. Hopper blinks. Excuse me? The Emperor's voice is level. I am not immune to error. The admission lands harder than any display of power. Hopper exhales. All right, he mutters. Guess we're doing this together. Vecna adapts fast. If Hawkins is constrained, he will attack the constraint itself. He gathers his will, drawing power not from fear now, but from defiance. He projects himself again, not above the school, but at the edge of the town, at Lover's Lake. The water boils, a column of black-red energy erupts skyward, forming Vecna's avatar more solid than before. Witnesses scream, phones record, Vecna spreads his arms wide. You claim this world, he roars, but you cannot hold it. He thrusts his power outward, a wave designed to shatter cohesion, to unravel order into chaos. The wave hits the Emperor's lattice and stops. Not explosively, firmly, like a fist striking a wall of tempered glass. The backlash rips through Vecna's form, tearing chunks of psychic mass away. He screams. For the first time, it is not performative. The Emperor does not counterattack. He steps forward, not physically, conceptually. His presence focuses, and Vecna feels something terrifying. Being defined. The Emperor speaks not to Hawkins, but directly to Vecna. You exist here only because I permit it. Vecna snarls, reforming his avatar. I was here before you noticed this place. The Emperor's reply is immediate. And now I have noticed. The words hit harder than any psychic blast. Vecna's domain quakes. He realizes the truth. This being is not fighting for territory. He is fighting for standards. Vecna cannot out-chaos him. He must undermine him. From a hillside overlooking town, the party watches the confrontation. Max's voice trembles. He's not killing him. Dustin nods slowly. He's regulating him. Lucas swallows. Can you regulate a monster? 11 stares, eyes burning. He's showing him limits. Will shivers. And Vecna hates limits. Mike grips 11's hand. Is this it? Is the Emperor going to win? 11 hesitates. No, she whispers. He's going to hold. The Emperor feels the strain, not on his power, but on his philosophy. Every second he maintains the lattice, belief begins to crystallize. People pray. Others curse him. Some demand more. Some resent him for not stopping everything instantly. This is how worship begins, and worship is a blade that cuts both ways. He speaks softly, not aloud. I must not become the answer. But Vecna is already adjusting his strategy. If the Emperor will not be a god, Vecna will make him one. By forcing people to demand miracles, Vecna withdraws his avatar suddenly, not defeated, repositioning. As he fades, he speaks one final time, voice echoing through Hawkins' minds. You will tire, they will beg, and when you refuse, they will turn on you. The sky clears, the lake stills, the town holds its breath. Hawkins is alive, contained, changed. The Emperor stands at the town's edge, golden presence unwavering. Hopper approaches him slowly. You held him back. The Emperor nods. For now. Hopper asks the question no one else dares. And when they start asking you to fix everything, the Emperor's answer is quiet. Then I will need them to learn what restraint looks like. 11 watches him, conflicted. He's not our savior, she murmurs. Will nods. He's our limit. The Emperor turns toward the horizon. The fracture still exists, smaller, tighter, angrier. Vecna is not gone, but now. He is contained, and containment is the beginning of judgment.
Vecna does not rage after his withdrawal. He calculates. Pain has taught him patience. Power has taught him timing. The Emperor's lattice holds Hawkins in a cage of order, not benevolent, not cruel, but unyielding. And Vecna understands something crucial. Order cannot kill him. Only people can. Not with weapons, not with strength, with expectation. If the town believes the Emperor is their answer, then every unanswered prayer becomes resentment. Every death becomes accusation. Every delay becomes betrayal. Gods fall not when they are defeated, but when they disappoint. Vecna smiles. It starts quietly. A woman stands in the street at dawn, holding her sick child, looking at the sky. Please, she whispers, just this one. A man kneels beside a burned-out car, hands shaking. If you're real, help us. At the hospital, doctors whisper about miracles that should be possible now. Why not cure disease? Why not undo death? Why not end suffering? Hawkins has tasted order. Now it wants control. And Vecna feeds the hunger. The dreams change. No longer just clocks and hallways. Now they are visions of gold, of a figure watching, doing nothing. A voice, never clearly Vecna's, asks a simple question. If he can stop me, why didn't he stop that? People wake angry, not afraid. Anger spreads faster, and anger is heavier. The party feels it immediately. 11 stands in the cabin, hands trembling. They're pulling on him, she whispers. Mike frowns. Who? Everyone. Will nods slowly. It's like pressure, like he's being leaned on. Dustin rubs his temples. Yeah, because apparently Hawkins just discovered cosmic customer service. Max's voice is tight. This is what Vecna wants. Lucas looks at the woods. He's not attacking the Emperor. He's attacking trust. Silence settles. Because trust is harder to defend than walls. The Emperor stands at the edge of the lattice, golden presence unwavering. But inside something tightens. Not fear, memory. He has seen this before. Worlds that begged for intervention until intervention became obligation. Until restraint was labeled cruelty. Until mercy was mistaken for weakness. He speaks quietly into the warp. I will not repeat this mistake. But the mistake is already forming. Belief is crystallizing, and belief, once solid, is difficult to reshape without shattering. Vecna does not strike the town. He strikes the story. One night, every dream in Hawkins aligns. Not terror, clarity. People dream of a future where the Emperor rules openly, where suffering ends but choice dies. A golden cage. And then the dream fractures. The Emperor turns away. The cage rusts. The monster returns. People wake, furious. He abandoned us. Vecna's voice whispers softly into the cracks. He always will. Hopper stands beside him in the clearing. They're turning, Hopper says quietly. The Emperor nods. As expected. Hopper clenches his jaw. Then fix it. The Emperor turns. I cannot. Hopper stares. What do you mean you can't? The Emperor's voice is heavy now. If I answer their demands, I become their ruler. If I refuse, I become their enemy. Hopper exhales sharply. So what? You're just going to leave? The Emperor's silence is answer enough. No. The word is quiet, but it stops everything. 11 steps into the clearing, eyes blazing. You don't get to decide alone. The Emperor turns to her. This outcome is inevitable. 11 shakes her head. No. It's only inevitable if you are the choice. The Emperor studies her. She continues, voice steady. They don't need a god. They need proof that they still matter. Dustin blinks. Holy crap. She's right. Will steps beside her. Vecna wins if people think everything depends on you. Max folds her arms. So stop being the center. Lucas nods. Let us be. The Emperor feels something unfamiliar. Not defiance. Relief. 11 looks up at him. Take it down. The Emperor stiffens. The lattice. It prevents further breach. 11 nods. I know. Mike steps forward. But it also makes you the answer. The target. Silence stretches. Dustin swallows. If Vecna wants belief to turn into a weapon, then remove the thing he's trying to turn into a god. The Emperor looks at them all. Children. Fragile. Stubborn. Human. Without the lattice, he will strike again. 11's voice is calm. Then we stop him. Hopper exhales slowly. Jesus Christ. Then he nods. Yeah. We stop him. For a long moment, nothing moves. Then the golden light around Hawkins begins to dim. Not collapse, withdraw. The lattice loosens, folding inward like a disciplined army standing down. People across Hawkins feel it. Some panic. Some feel strangely lighter. The Emperor speaks once more, not to the town, but to the children. If I do this, you will bear the cost. 11 meets his gaze. We already do. The lattice dissolves. The sky returns to ordinary blue. Vecna feels it instantly and smiles. He strikes with everything. No subtlety, no whispers. He opens the fracture wider than ever before. The upside down spills toward Hawkins like a storm front of rot and memory. Creatures surge. The sky darkens. Vecna manifests fully, towering above the town, roaring triumph. Now they see! But something is wrong. The children stand together, not protected, not empowered by a god. Connected. 11 reaches out, not alone. Mike anchors her. Will stabilizes the breach. Max holds the memory Vecna cannot twist. Lucas grounds the moment. Dustin maps the impossible. Erica watches the angles. They form the hall. And Vecna slams into it. Vecna screams as his power fractures. Not because it's weaker, but because it has no singular target. He cannot isolate them, cannot whisper individually, cannot turn them inward. 11 steps forward, eyes burning. You don't win, she says. Not because you're weak, but because you need us broken. Vecna lashes out. The Emperor watches. He does not intervene. This time, that restraint is earned. With a final collective push, the children force Vecna back, not destroyed, but severed. The fracture snaps shut. Vecna is thrown into the upside down, howling in fury. The breach seals. Silence falls. Hawkins stands, bruised, traumatized, but standing. People remember the fear. They remember the monster. But the golden presence? It fades into rumor, into doubt, into story, as it should. The Emperor's shard stands at the tree line, preparing to withdraw. 11 approaches him. You're leaving? He nods. This world must choose itself. She hesitates. Thank you. The Emperor inclines his head. You did not need me, he says. You needed a limit. He looks at them one last time. Children who defied a god by refusing to need one. Do not seek gods, he says quietly. Seek responsibility. And then, he is gone. The upside down remains. Vecna survives, but he is changed. Contained not by gods, but by people who understand him now. Hawkins rebuilds. The children grow. And somewhere far beyond their sky, the Emperor returns to his throne, having learned something rare. That sometimes, the strongest act of power is knowing when to step aside.